All right, my man. We were just talking. Holy smokes, there's so much to talk about. It's been a hot minute. You got tons of athletes for athlete updates. You got your own journey because you're obviously a coach, but competing as an athlete at SBD Austin, as well as handling the freaking return of Bobb Matthews, no less. So it's a huge. You have a lot going on, and you were saying not only are you competing at SBD Austin, but this is the 10-year anniversary for you for
Yeah,
competing, period.
yeah. My first meet was the Longhorn Open in 2015, and it was in Austin, Texas as well, November specifically. And
What are
now,
you serious?
yeah,
Almost
I
10 years
know,
to
I
the
know,
day?
I know, I know it's poetic. And then this year, 2015, 10 years later, in Austin, Texas, SBD Austin. And if I come in and do what I'm supposed to do, I PR my total. I can say that I PR'd my total for all 10 years on the platform of my powerlifting career, which honestly, man, it's not an exaggeration to say that this meet means more to me than any other meet that I've done, just because of the fact to stick with anything for that long, right? To have stuck with it for 10 years, but to be able to show that I objectively, not just in training, but on the platform, have gotten better at it over the 10 years, despite all the ups and downs, despite the new circumstances. Like I was telling you, my wife and I, we just had our second child. So it's like I've got a 3-year-old, I've got a newborn, I've got all these different circumstances going on that would provide all types of reasons to be like, oh, are you going to be able to show up and do what you need to do? But it's all just a blessing and more motivation, in my opinion. Um,
Mm.
and like I was talking about, it's like with the prep series I'm doing on YouTube, where it's like I'm reflecting on each year of powerlifting and what I've gotten out of it, how I've applied it to life, the carryover and crossovers, the different connections, and yeah, I'm excited for it because not everyone's gonna, that's just, obviously the coaching level, I've been to nationals, worlds, Sheffield, had people qualify for world games, but it's like, not every lifter, most lifters aren't gonna necessarily go compete at worlds. But I feel like if more lifters would set their own personal goals and be like, this goal is just as valuable as a world title or a national title because it matters to me, I think they would enjoy the sport more and stick with it for a much longer time. Because 10 years is a long time to be doing anything, right?
Hmm.
Especially when, quite frankly, like I don't have to still compete. Like I'm at a point with coaching where even if I stop competing, I'm not going to lose clients because of that. I'm not going to have less people come to me because of it. But it's like long before I got into coaching, I was proud because I just love powerlifting. I love training, getting stronger, and it's been cool to see, just to reflect on each year of like, yeah, man, I learned this from powerlifting, or hey, I learned this in life, and I carried that over into powerlifting, and to bring it all together 10 years later on the platform at SPD Austin in the same city in the same month as my first meet, it's poetic, honestly.
And so there's a couple things in there. Like we were talking a little bit before we started recording about everything you've learned in 10 years. Look, from 21 to 31, you're going to learn tons regardless.
Yeah.
Every 21-year-old to 31 is like crazy form. There's a huge difference between a man in his early 20s and a man in his early 30s. No question. Like you're a family man now and everything else. But then the fact that you're an entrepreneur,
Mm.
you're world traveled, you know, this is a whole nother ball. You don't do a Joe 9 to 5.
Yeah.
You're very much visible within your community, from the highs of the highs. I don't know what the equivalent would be for a Joe 95, or even if there is one, because you're an elite level powerlifting coach who has taken people from the regional level all the way to the world championships. That's huge in the last 10 years, the amount of growth you would have had as a coach, and just having all these different relationships and everything that you've been through all the way through from 21 to 31. It's crazy. It's got to be nuts to look at it. And then also, by the way, so we could talk, I would love to dive into some of that, your journey,
Yeah.
and so what you think you've learned along the way, and experiences. And then on top of that, you were talking about how people, like literally 1%ers, maybe less, make it to world champion, like win a world title. You,
Yeah.
depending on the nation you're from, pathways to the world championships might be a little easier than others,
Mhm.
but still going to be tough. And there's talk of, and we were also talking about this before we started recording, but I think this is another good one I want to talk about, is are we in a powerlifting recession in terms of growth is now, it could be negative. Still compared to what it was before. We're not growing as much. Have we peaked, etc.? And if we are, what that looks like, why are people no longer entering because the top end is not as plausible? It's interesting. Or will it come back? Is it still no? This is just a little bit stagnant. We're going to continue to grow after maybe when Sheffield goes to a stadium. I don't know. Whatever the heck happens. Eventually, there's got to be a peak. Eventually, there's got to be a cap. I don't think it's an exponential. We'll just always grow. Love to get your take on all of that. I just threw a bunch out there, so I don't know where we should start. There's so much to talk about.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I mean, we can. I mean, it all ties in together. We can start with the powerlifting recession because I was on another podcast talking about this actually, and it's like I believe I don't remember this exactly, but I think in the U.S. alone, it's like I want to say for the tested side, it went from like 60,000 people competing in the U.S. to around like 40 something thousand now. So I mean, that's a pretty,
it's huge.
you know, that's a
That's
huge
substantial.
drop off, obviously. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, right? Because, it's easy to say, like, hey, there's always swings and fluctuations with things when it comes to fitness, not just powerlifting, but bodybuilding, CrossFit. You can even see it like on YouTube fitness. Like, there's years where people care more about bodybuilding, then they care more about strength, and then it swings into like, Pilates, whatever random thing you want to say, right?
Mm.
I think the big thing that hit us here in the US was definitely the split, like undeniably, because powerlifting, like I said, most people aren't going to necessarily get to the world level, right? Most people aren't even necessarily going to win nationals. Maybe they'll, get top 10 or something, but most people are going to fall below that. A big part of what I think gets a lot of people into powerlifting is first and foremost, a lot of us, when we started, we were just working out anyway. We just enjoyed training and lifting. So when you discover powerlifting, it's just kind of like a natural progression of, oh, well, I already squat, bench, and deadlift anyway. Like this just structures my training, right? So that's one aspect. Whereas I think of now, because it's got more popular on social media, a lot of people, when they see powerlifting, that's the first thing they get into fitness wise. They don't really discover what they like training wise first. They just kind of dive into powerlifting, right? And because of how almost glamorous it looks now by comparison, like, when I started 10 years ago, it wasn't, you might see a few people on Instagram posting their posts, but it wasn't anything like what it is today, right? You didn't see like
Mm.
these Sheffield posts and like these world level posts and world games. You can have like your Bobb Matthews and stuff that make you feel like, oh, I can dive into this and become something big with it, right? You weren't thinking that way. And I think now when a lot of people think that way, they jump right into it. And when they realize 1 or 2 years in, oh, this isn't going to be me, then they're simply not interested, right? Because they didn't learn to love powerlifting for what it is in of itself. And then the big thing, like I said, with the split is the community aspect. Like so many people, I think that's one of the strongest things about powerlifters is there's such a variety of personality types, right? You've got your former athletes who just want that spark of competing again. You've got your typical gym bros who just like strength training and this just gives them something to do. You've got your people where they've never done anything physical beforehand, and this is a low barrier to entry. It's an easy sport to kind of get involved in terms of, oh, you just squat, bench, and deadlift. Like, even if you can't afford all of like, the belts and the nieces and stuff, you can just go squat, bench, and deadlift, right? And then you have all these different personalities, all these different backgrounds, but the commonality of, oh, we all enjoy getting stronger. And you create this sense of community. Nationals every year was this thing where you get to see your friends that live in different states. There's people you follow on social media. You get to come, you get to hang out, you get to compete, you get to eat together, get Airbnbs together, and then you get to watch the best people in your sport all compete together, right? It's something that we all really look forward to. And I feel like when the split happened, that really hit us hard, right? Because now it's like you've got, okay, if you want to go the world route or the more like elite athlete route, you've got, Powerlifting America league into the IPF, right? And then you've got the people where maybe if you want convenience of more local meets constantly, you're staying with USAPL, but it's like you've taken these people that were one tight knit community and you've just effectively split them. And I think that's hurt us quite a bit because it's like the local level is how you're feeding people into powerlifting in the first place, right? Well, now the local level is so janky and messed up, right? Because it's like, okay, for a lot of people in powerlifting America, it's like, okay, you don't even have to have a qualifying total just yet, right? To just go to nationals and do your thing. And a lot of them are like, well, if I can't go to worlds, what's the point? But then USAPL, they're so focused on like their new regional system and nationals and that weird pseudo world thing they're trying to do. And I feel like it's just not a lot of people that are getting invested in the local scene to the same degree because there's that lack of community. And I think that's what we have to address to fix it. I think a lot of people are trying to fix it from like the top down level. Like, oh, what are the people at the top need to do? It's like, well, no, it's going to be us at the the local level, right? Like getting more people into it. When you're at the gym, just talking to people about powerlifting, you know what I mean, and things of that nature. I think that's going to help a lot. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's so many reasons why it's happening. I don't think it's hitting the same way internationally. I feel like in a lot of countries internationally, powerlifting is almost growing more. But in the US, it's definitely taking a hit and decline. And is it going to bounce back? I don't know. Because I mean, that's a huge drop off in just like a year's time, right? But um, I think what's more important, well, I won't say more important, but I think the perspective matters. I think that people have this mentality of like, oh, this is a recession. People aren't as interested. So because of that, you've got people who are quitting early, or you've got coaches who are starting to slack or look into other avenues. I don't think that's the right approach. I think the mentality should be like, okay, well, if this is happening, what can I do to double down and provide more value to make sure that like, okay, my roster continues to be consistent. Or if I'm a lifter, okay, yeah, you know what? It is more competitive and stuff like that. What can I do? Like, am I doing everything I can to be the best lifter I can be? Right. It really just comes down to knowing your why. Like, why do you do this? Right. Because if most people would be honest when they first got into this, I don't think most people got into this thinking by default, oh, I'm going to be the best. There's some people who are like that. Right. Um, Heck, when I first started, I was one of those people. I was like, yeah, I think I could be like one of the best at this, just because the demographic was so different back then, right? In terms of what was competitive totals. But I think most people, it's like you got involved in this because it's fun. You enjoy it, right? And there's so many things you can get out of it the longer you stick with it. I think the problem is now you got people in two categories. You've got people where they're going all in when they first start. They're putting the best foot forward, all this energy, but they're not staying with it long enough. It's like they put forth 100% effort and energy for 2, 3 years, and they don't get the results they want. So like, okay, this isn't it. Whether it's as a lifter or as a coach, it's like, oh, I'm not a full-time coach yet, or I don't have this big like high-level lifter yet. I've been doing it for 2, 3 years, been going all out on it. Oh, this isn't for me. It's like keep going. And then on the flip side, you've got people who are like, man, I've been doing this for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. I'm not where I want to be. It's like, yeah, but you've been putting half-ass effort in for those 5 to 6 to 8 years. I feel like those are the two extremes. It's like people have to understand it takes high quality over a long duration of time to improve anything, right? Um, like I said, I wouldn't be where I'm at today in life, period, if I would have quit powerlifting in my first, forget 2, 3 years, in my first 5 years because, oh, I'm not where I want to be, or I'm not the coach that I want to be, or the lifter that I want to be, right? So yeah, the recession is definitely, there's lots of layers to it, but I wish people would put a little bit more of a focus on, okay, well, what can we do to make, if we can't make things better, if we can't get back where we're at, what can we do to maximize what we still have, right? Like a simple example as a coach is, when I see coaches being like, oh, well, it makes sense that I'm losing clients, that I'm not getting any increase because of a recession. It's like, well, dude, yeah, it's not 60,000, but there's still 40,000 people doing powerlifting. That's a lot of people. Like, what do you mean you can't get clients? You know what I mean? Like I've got people who I'm mentoring where, they aren't big, well-named coaches, but they've gone from like, oh, I was only managing 15 to 20 to where, oh, I have a full roster of 40 now, right? Because they're doing the right things. They're not having this woe is me mentality of like, oh, well, it's a lot harder now, so I'm just gonna go. It's like, oh, okay, it's a lot harder. Okay, what do I do to set myself apart, right? And I think it's the same thing even with just, powerlifting. Instead of being like, oh yeah, people just aren't interested in this powerlifting anymore. So, okay, well, what can we do to change that? What kind of content, if you're a content creator, what type of content can you create to get more people interested? If you're a local meet director, what can you do to make your meets more enticing and engaging and marketing those meets to get more people interested, right? If you're just someone where you just love powerlifting, you want to see it do well, how many people are you talking to about powerlifting when you're at the gym, right? Or just in your day-to-day? Are you trying to get people involved in it, right? I think it's easy to complain about a problem. It's a lot harder to think about, okay, what solutions can there be? And I much rather try something and it not work out versus just throwing my hands up in the air and being like, okay, well, I guess this thing that I love and I put all this time into is just going to go away.
100%. There's a couple things to unpack here. Um, I like even the grassroots level of talking to people, do seminars at
Yeah.
gyms, do bring it to people. Say to gyms, I'm going to do a squat seminar. Please don't advertise it as just a powerlifting seminar. Advertise it as a squat seminar or a bench seminar or whatever. People, normal everyday gym goers, squat, bench, but they might not be power lifters. Let me come in, and then you'll reach the people who aren't yet into powerlifting. And that's how it works.
Mhm.
Like initially to start growing grassroots level. Another piece which is interesting to me. So in terms of coaching, and I haven't talked to a lot of coaches about if their clientele is shortening or shallowing a little, or if established coaches are going to remain okay, but if new coaches trying to enter are the ones probably will get hit first with the difficulties, because the pie is just different. Supply and demand. The demand goes down, the supply stays the same. Somebody's going to lose something. It's just what it is, right? So if it's and it probably will be the newer people trying to enter. You're entering at a bad time here. This isn't the greatest time to that point. So then you got to get creative. You got to be almost a content creator, like you said. And this is where you can run into some of that conversation. Some people, their association or their viewpoint of social media can be inherently negative the way they think about it. Like, I don't like doing this. I don't like TikTok. I don't like Instagram. I don't like, I don't like
Mhm.
being that guy or that girl, as it were. But you got to look at it as marketing. It isn't, you
Mhm.
have to market yourself. In
Mhm.
what world do you have a business and you think you're above advertising? That
Exactly.
literally has gone hand in hand with owning a business from the beginning of time. You
Yeah.
have to advertise.
Yeah.
So when you think about content creation or any social media platforms, print notes by magazines and newspapers, it's all online. You have to think about it like a business person. How
Mhm.
much have you invested in advertising? And oftentimes, this day and age, investing doesn't necessarily mean monetarily. It might be time and energy to yourself,
Absolutely.
making it yourself.
That's
And
what it is
you
most of
need
the
to,
time. Most
what's
of the
that,
time.
sorry?
That's what it is most of
Yeah,
the time. Like, sorry to interrupt you,
right.
but it's
No,
like
go ahead. Go ahead.
people people want the benefit of like, oh, I work for myself, I have a full-time business, but they don't treat it like a business. Like so many of these new coaches that I talk to that I'm trying to help and mentor, I'm like, you're approaching this like a hobby or like a passive part-time job. I was like, when I first started the online coaching, even when I was only doing it on the side, I had like 5, 10 clients, I had a full, this is a business. This is a structure. People are paying for a quality of service. They're entrusting with their time, their money. I need to treat this professionally if I ever want this to grow. And the marketing is huge. And the thing is with social media, what's cool about it is like people are like, oh, I don't like Instagram. Like, bro, there's so many ways you can do it though. You want to make infographics that are informative, do that. You want to be a talking head on your Instagram story, you can do that. You want to like, do tutorials. There's so many options of what you can do. And I tell people, look, when I first started, like I'm at a point now where like, I can upload like, one YouTube video a month or, a Powerlifting Now video a month or whatever, right? But when I first started, I was uploading 3 to 5 YouTube videos uh, a week, like easily. I was, posting on Instagram daily. I still post on Instagram daily. And that's why I tell people too. I said the things you do to get to a certain point, you have to keep doing it to keep yourself relevant. I mean, this powerlifters, the powerlifting community and fitness community in general, powerlifting community specifically, has a very short attention span. If you aren't posting consistently, if you're not putting yourself out there consistently, it's easy for you to be forgotten, right? I mean, simple things, man. I know people who are coaches like, oh, my coach not doing well. I'm like, bro, I don't even see you reposting your clients. I didn't even like, what are you talking about? Like that's the easiest form of marketing is just reposting your clients' results and breaking down what you're doing with them. And you don't see that. It's like people want all this benefit, but they don't want to put in the work. They don't want to put in, and like I said, time is a big part of it. The way you invest in things. Something like just going to local meets, even if you don't have clients there, just going to local meets and offering to help, offering to spot and load. Like something that I did that was huge out of my own pocket because I didn't charge my clients for this was because I live in Texas. When I first started, any meet that was in Texas, even only one client doing it, no matter how far away it is, you know how big Texas is, I was there. And any out of state meet, if it was 2 clients doing it, I was there. I was paying that out of pocket. If it was a thing where I could get a bunch of clients to do the same meet, I get an Airbnb. I pay for the Airbnb. I was like, hey guys, I'll cover the Airbnb. Let's go through this meet together. Because that gives you a presence. That's a form of marketing. It was time, it was money, it's a lot of energy, and that you're not making money doing that initially, right? But that's what leads to more growth because you're showing yourself more, you're showcasing your skills more, you're building more. But people don't want to, this goes beyond powerlifting. People want so badly to get the end result, but they're only willing to do a specific type of work. They'll see somebody like, well, this guy did it this way and got it this fast, so I should be able to do it this way and get it that fast. But you're not that guy or you're not that girl. You have a different background. You have different skill sets. You have to try. You have to almost be willing to. And I'm not saying to fake it. Don't try to do something that's just not your nature, your personality. But you have to have a willingness to try everything to find what your groove and your flow is. Right? Like me,
Mm,
I don't do the short form content stuff on Instagram. Like my Instagram, I post my training, I post my clients' training, and I kind of keep it there. I like more of the long format stuff because that's what I'm good with. I like podcasts. I like informative breakdowns of videos. That's what I flow with. But I didn't never try the short form content. I tried it. I'm like, let me see if I like this. I was like, I don't like this because this thing that I'm doing a quick 2-minute video over, I could break down in 10 minutes and it'd be way better, right? But I have to try it and kind of, you have to dip your hand in different things to see what works for you, right? And I'm very big on like, hey, I like explaining something and then showing that I practice what I preach by showing it with my own training, right? Or showing my clients doing it. But you don't ever figure that out if you're like, oh, well, I don't like Instagram. I don't like TikTok. I don't want to do things this way or that way. Have you tried it? Well, no, but I just know I'm not going to like it. You sound like a child. It's like a child being like, hey, try this
It's not
meal.
working.
Oh, well, I'm not going to like it. You haven't even tried it yet. You don't know what you like. You haven't tried it and you don't know what it can lead to.
And I'll just jump in. I'll let you keep going. But
No, you're good.
work, like when you're an entrepreneur and you're a business owner, you view it as work. You don't always get to do only what you like to do at
Exactly.
work. Like,
Exactly.
like I think people sometimes when they work for themselves, they think I never have to do things I don't want to do anymore. Like I got a normal day job. I'm doing things all the time I don't want to do. It's my job. And if
Hmm.
you view it, I think the discipline of knowing I'm a business owner, but I'm still in business. I have to do things like you said earlier. It's not a hobby where you just get to do what's fun. You have to do what's necessary. So if you own a
Yeah.
business, you make business decisions and do business moves, and you're like, look at this isn't the fun part. This is the part that's tedious to me, but it still has to be done. It still
Exactly.
has to be done.
And as you grow and develop and you get to a certain point, yes, you can have a little bit more freedom and flexibility with how you do things. Like, for example, for the longest time, my response was always within 24 hours, no matter what, right? And I built myself and grinded doing that. But as of last year, I gave myself office hours. So now it's like, hey, these are the hours you guys can send your videos. This is when I'll give you your responses. And if you don't get a response that day during the office hours, you'll get it within 24 hours during those hours, right? But that's because I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, I can give these hours and I know my clients will be okay with it because they're not going anywhere, right? And if somebody does have to go somewhere, I know there's someone there that's ready to take the spot. But I had to build to that. And guess what? Even now, there's still times where I have to do things that I may not want to do. Look, like I don't necessarily always want to post my light tertiary bench day. You know what I'm saying? But I'm consistent with posting my training daily because I know, hey, this is going to pan out. This is going to be good. To this day, Ryan, I still get inquiries where people are like, yeah, man, like I've seen your content, it's really, really good, but also, man, I like that you still get after it yourself. I like that I see you still training yourself. And like, that's why I want to work with you. It pays off. And look, man, like I said, look, I have a 3-year-old, I have a newborn, I have a lot of different responsibilities outside of just the coaching. Guess what? There are some days where, yeah, I don't feel like being up at, especially right now, being up at like, because I can't even necessarily write blocks during my office hours anymore. I'm usually writing them after the office hours because that's when I have time to do it. Yeah, when it's 1 in the morning, I don't feel like having to write a certain block or making sure I got to wake up early to get back to these clients. I don't always feel like doing that, but I have to do it because it's the business, it's the job. And one thing that I've told people that I think has led to a lot of my success is since no one else is going to keep me accountable with me, I basically look at it as like, hey, these are the standards that you set for yourself that you agree to with your clients. If you fall below this, you deserve to be fired. That's how I look at it.
Mm.
So I make sure that like it's not even an option in my mind, basically. Like being late on a block has never happened because it's not even an option, right? And look, let's be honest. I'm at a point in time where if I told a client, if I give them their block the day of, they're not going to drop me over it. It's like, coach, it's been years, you've been great. They're not going to drop me over it. If I waited till 25 hours to 24 hours to respond, I'm not getting dropped over it. But it's just not an option in my mind. And at this point, it's so ingrained, but you have to approach it that way from the jump. So many people, they're so free flowing with everything, and that works at first, but then you get more clients or whatever you're dealing with. We can even talk about training. Like you're so free flowing with your training, you train whenever you want, you eat however you want, but then you get to a point where it's like, oh man, I really got to start being on top of my macros. Or oh man, I've got 20 clients now. I got to figure out a better way to organize this with my life. But if you would approach it with that mentality from the jump, you're already going to be ahead of so many people who start at the same time as you. So it's important to approach it that way, both from a standpoint of values and ethics, because once again, this is people's time and money and dreams they're trusting you with, but then from the standpoint of your own longevity. Like if you want to look at it selfishly, like it's going to benefit you to approach this with that type of effort from the jump because a lot of people just don't. They don't. Like you've
Mhm.
been in this space for a long time, right? I know you've seen lifters come and go, you've seen coaches come and go, but you've also seen a lot of us that have been doing this for years that are still here to this day. And if you look at the commonalities between a lot of us, it's that type of stuff. There's a lot of differences between how a lot of us operate, right? Like, the way TSG goes about things, the way Joey goes about things, the way John Song goes about things, the way I go about things. There's definitely differences, but you're going to see some commonalities from us that have been doing this for this long and are still here despite the recession, despite all the stuff that's going on, right? And
Mm.
there has to be a certain level of just tenacity, man. Like people, like I'm not trying to talk down or anything like that, but I really do think a lot of people are just very mentally soft in terms of they don't do well with adversity. And I'm not saying that lightly. I'm saying this is someone where I've gone through some shit, man. This year alone, like dealing with some stuff that's been very, very tough, right? Um, and of course, different people have different things that ground them. Like for me, it's my faith. It's like I know that no matter what things look like, the ups, the downs, give glory to God in all of it, trust Him in all of it, because whatever it's going to be, it's going to sharpen and refine me for my betterment and for His glory. Because there's a verse about it says, like, in all things give thanks. So not just the good, but in all things give thanks. And that all things work together for the good of those who love God. And all things means all things. I mean, even when you're getting kicked in the mouth, somehow, some way, this is going to work out for your betterment, right? And I hold to that. And I tell people too, sometimes, like, when you pray for things, what you're gonna get is an opportunity for that thing to be made known, right? Like at the start of each year, I always pray, like, Lord, help me in this area, or teach me something in this area. For this year, it was like, Lord, help me to have more gratitude, and not in the traditional sense, not in the sense of like, oh, I'm not grateful for what I have. I'm very every day I'm thanking God for where my life is at. But gratitude in the sense of when I'm going through hard things or when I'm going through something that sucks, instead of my default being to whine or complain, Lord, let me give glory to you, and even in that. And Ryan, let me tell you, I prayed for that man, and God was like, "All right," and definitely got put through some stuff this year where it's like, "Are you
Really?
gonna complain or get?" Yeah, man, yeah. It's like I can talk about it openly now because I've talked about it now more publicly on YouTube. But basically, man, for this whole year up until about a month or so ago, I was sitting here struggling, wondering if I had cancer for like
Holy shit, Marcellus.
yeah, for like it really, really for almost the past year and a half, but specifically this year. And it wasn't only until a month or two ago where I finally got confirmation that that's not what it is. And I know we're jumping around a little bit, but I'll, as we usually do, I'll bring it full circle and tie it into all this type of stuff as far as like perseverance, not quitting. So, and I think I might have mentioned this to you on our very first podcast years ago, but so in 2011, my eldest sibling, my big sister Brandy, she died from leukemia. Um, and it's crazy how even in that I see how God ties things in together, because so 2011 was my junior year in high school. I graduated in 2012. In 2011, my junior year in high school, I already had like applied to different colleges and had like full scholarships to like Baylor, TCU, things like that. That's where I was planning to do. It's like, okay, cool. I've been working hard, making straight A's to go to a good college. But then my sister, she and it came spread. So she was diagnosed with cancer like a few years before that, right? When she was pregnant with her last child. And pretty much they said, hey, we can try to work on this, but then you might lose the baby. She's like, I'm not gonna risk that. I don't want to lose my kid. And she ended up giving birth, and then it was gone. Like the cancer was gone. It seemed like a miracle. She was good to go. They found no trace of it. Everything was great. And then like a few years later, in 2011, it came back with a vengeance, and it killed her very quickly. I'm talking like 1 week, it seems like she's got diagnosed with it. The next week, she's gone.
Oh my God.
And it made things very weird at home, like with my folks, my little sister Bria. And it was this thing where I didn't want to be far away from home because of that. So I gave up the scholarships, didn't do it, and chose to go to a local community college for my first 2 years, right? Um, but what brings it full circle is that in doing that for my first 2 years, I eventually transferred to UNT for my junior senior year, which would not have happened had I gone to Baylor TCU. And that's where I discovered powerlifting, and that leads to all this.
Mm.
But anyway, the bottom line is my sister had leukemia, right? Well, January of last year, I got really, really sick, man. I was actually like in the middle of a meet prep, and I got sick. Like, I can probably count on my fingers the amount of times that I've gotten really, really sick. I don't get sick very often. And like the doctor said like the first, like, I was sick for like 2 going on 3 weeks, like bedridden, like just out of there. Couldn't train, couldn't really do anything. Um, and the doctors couldn't quite figure out what it was. At first, they're like, well, it seems like it's a viral infection. But then the next was like, well, dang, now it seems like it's like a bacterial infection. They weren't sure what was going on, right? But eventually I got over it and I was fine. I was good to go, felt normal, everything was good. Um, but ever since then, right, like in my inguinal area near my groin, my inguinal lymph node, that's what it seemed like anyway, would randomly inflame. Like it would like get really, really poppy. It didn't hurt. Like I could brace, I could put my belt on, it didn't hurt, but it would randomly like inflame and then it would go down. And like in the morning, it'd be flat, normal, but then like throughout the day, after I do certain things or eat and move around, it would inflame. And all of last year, I like at first I like, I went to the doctors because I go regularly for blood work and stuff like that. I'm very big on my health. And they're like, oh, that's normal. Like post-bacterial infections, sometimes lymph nodes will inflame and they'll kind of stay that way, but it should go down in a month or two. So I'm like, all right, cool. A few months go by and it's still there. And it's getting more constant. It went from being every now and then to like on a daily basis, this thing inflames and goes back down,
Mm.
fills up and goes back down. And I'm doing all types of tests. They're testing my blood work. They're testing this and that. And all they're finding is like, they're like, okay, well, their white blood cell count seems a little bit low, like with this specific white blood cell, but oh, that's common for African Americans. So like, oh, not a big deal. Or they're like, oh, well, your creatinine levels and your kidney filtration rate look kind of weird, but you know what? You have a lot of muscle mass, so that's normal, not a big deal, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. So as I get through all of last year, because I feel fine and everything's good, and I'm going through all these tests, and there's some weird slight abnormalities, but nothing that's concerning them. I'm just going on with life like, okay, I'm good to go. I'm not worried about it, right? Declare my healing in Jesus'
Mm.
name and keep it going. But then January of this year, when I go for another checkup and they're asking me questions like, oh, is everything good? I'm like, yeah, everything's fine. I said, oh, yeah, by the way, this thing's still happening. And they're like, what? They're like, that's still happening? I'm like, yeah, it's still going on. They're like, okay. And they start running more tests. And now there's these other weird markers with my blood and things going on. And they're like, yeah, we're not sure what this means because this by itself doesn't mean anything, but this can mean something, but you're clear in this area. So I'm getting sent, man, like specialist to specialist, right? Um, and I had, bro, like, like 2, 3 times I had to switch my insurance because it's like, oh, well, this type of specialist only takes this insurance. Oh, well, now you're going to this specialist, they take this insurance. So I'm having to deal with all that, right? And they tell me straight up, they're like, yeah, the reason we're testing you for this is because some of the stuff that you're showing is signs of leukemia. And I'm like, but
Oh
I feel
fuck.
fine. Yeah, I'm like, but I
But
feel
that,
fine. Go ahead.
given your background, given what you went through as a kid, and
Yeah,
then the scare that would be to hear that freaking word, and then given obviously I don't know what's hereditary or whatnot, but
yeah.
holy smokes, man, to hear that word with what you given what you went through as a kid
Oh, my
and
heart
what it
dropped.
done to your family.
My heart dropped immediately, man. Like when they told me
Oh,
that, because mind you, all of last year, I'm chilling. I'm thinking, yeah, I don't know what this is, but I feel great. I'm still training. I'm happy.
you're
I'm
a young
healthy. My
guy who's
blood.
fit as hell.
I'm
Like you have, yeah,
chilling.
of course,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm chilling. But then, and even when I told them, oh yeah, this is still going on, they said, well, okay, we're gonna test this. I was fine. But the moment they said that word, right? The moment they said
Oh,
this could be traces of leukemia, and they said because sometimes leukemia, like it's these things where the symptoms don't hit until it all hits at once. My heart dropped, man, because for me, it's like I said, I graduated in 2012, right? And my sister, she didn't get to see me graduate high school. She didn't get to see me graduate college. She didn't get to see me do everything that I'm doing with powerlifting. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to get emotional. She didn't get to
no
see
worries.
everything that I've done with powerlifting. She didn't get to meet my kids, didn't get to meet my wife. And my big sister, Brandy, man, like I love all my siblings. But what was cool about my big sister, Brandy, she was the person where like I could always just fully be myself with her in every regard. Whatever I was dealing with, whatever I was going through, and she's like my parent, like, and I'm very fortunate where I could have a very good open relationship with my parents. But like when you're a kid and you're young, there's certain things you don't want to talk to your parents about all the time. I could talk to
Sure.
her about it, and she would give me the best advice. She always encouraged me, and she's someone where she made me like Marcellus, you can do whatever you put your mind to. If it's something mental, as far as like passing a grade and making all these, you can do it. If it's something physical, you can do it. You're capable, right? And she exemplified life, man. I'll never forget, like at her funeral, it was so packed that people had to be outside the building because of all the impact she had on people, right? And even though when that happened, and it's easy for someone like that to shake your faith, and I was mad, man. I was angry at God. I was like, why is this happening to my sister? Like she's loving, she's loyalty, she does what she's supposed to do. Why is this happening? But I can always say it strengthened me in it long term, because I know I wouldn't have gotten through that trial. My family would have gotten through that trial if not for our faith, if not for God sustaining us. But in that, and this is why, like, and I've been saying this for years, even before this, like, people, if you ask people on the Instagram, something I say all the time, I said, you got to live each day as if though it's your last. And not out of the sense of fear, like, oh, I'm scared, but a sense of like, man, everything you do it to the glory of God, to the best of your fulfillment. When you're at work, make it the best day at work ever. When you're hanging out with your friends, make it the best time with your friends ever. When you're training, make it the best training ever. When you have those moments of, oh, I don't feel like doing this, be like, yo, be happy that you can do this. Because there's someone that, like, for example, man, like, I'm not getting much sleep right now because I have a newborn, right? And I'm trying to do as much as I can to be with him during the day so my wife can sleep during the day. So that means, hey, while I'm responding to messages, on client calls, writing blocks, I got my son on my shoulder, right? And then at night, if I feel like my wife's getting overwhelmed, I wake up, I take him, stuff like that, right? Like, even just a couple nights ago, it was like 3 in the morning, and I'm just here holding him so that my wife can go to sleep, and he's whining, stuff like that. But instead of complaining, I'm thinking, God, thank you, because I have friends who have miscarried and they would give anything to be in the position I'm in right now. You know what I mean? So it's
Mm.
like, to get back to the point, my losing my sister in that way, but seeing the impact she had on people, and how her life and death impacted people, made me like, I gotta value everything that I do every single day. And so I've tried to live life to the fullest with the most fulfillment, doing all the glory of God, living as I know I'm meant to according to his word and based upon values and ethics, and being consistent and true to myself and true to him. So when they said leukemia, I was just sitting here like, there's no way. And then I'm sitting here, and then it put me in this headspace, man, where it's like, the things you don't want to do, but you do out of necessity. It's like, you sit there and you question, why am I doing this? Like, why does this matter? Like you're sitting there, because I was still training. Like, I'm going into the gym training, and I would sit there in the car sometimes for a few minutes before I go. And of course, keep in mind when I'm hearing this, my wife is also pregnant, because like, I got this news around like January, February. My wife got pregnant. Like, we found she was pregnant in February. So I'm sitting in my car before these sessions, many times just being like, why am I about to go work out right now? Like, does that even, what if I only have like a year or two left or 5 years left? Because like I said, when it came to my sister, it came back and killed her quickly. So I'm like, why am I working out? Or you have those moments where you're sitting here, you're about to write a block and being like, why does this matter? Why am I doing this? But then the things
Mm.
you do enjoy, the things where I'm like, okay, I want to spend more time with my family. I had moments, man, where I broke down crying, just sitting there playing with my daughter and being with my wife in the living room. And my wife's like, what's wrong? And I'm just sitting here like, because keep in mind, for the longest time, the only people who knew about what was going on was like my immediate family, so my parents and my sister. And then a little bit later, I told my partners at Powerlifting now, just because if God forbid something did happen to me, I want to make sure my portion of the business would take care of my family. But I would break down. She's like, babe, what's wrong? I was like, I can't even sit here and fully enjoy this moment, because it's like, am I going to be able to watch my daughter grow up? Am I not going to grow old with you? Am I not going to be able to fully enjoy the birth of my son because I don't know where I'm going to be? And I'm getting sent place to place over and over and getting no answers. And it's crazy because I have a client named Jacob Green where he just actually he had cancer, got diagnosed and went through it, but he's pushing through. He's doing great. He's great now. He's doing awesome, right? And I would keep telling myself, I'm like, man, he actually had this physical sense and went through it, and he still kept learning, giving glory to God. So I kept reminding myself to do that and being like, you don't even know what you have. And I would guilt trip myself because I'm like, I feel physically fine. I have no reason to feel this distraught. But that made it more frustrating because it's like, I feel physically fine. So why can't they tell me what's wrong with me? Or why are they telling me something's wrong with me when I feel physically fine, right? So I'm getting sent
Mm.
specialist to specialist. And the only thing, man, like I said, until I kind of finally talked about it on YouTube, when I finally got some more positive results, like I said, my clients were so shocked. They're hitting me up like, man, I had no idea, because like, I still was on top of everything. But that was purely by the grace of God, man. Because I'm like, okay, God, I asked you to help me with gratitude, to give you thanks in everything. So even as I'm going through this, even though I don't understand why I'm going through this, even though I don't understand why I'm not getting answers, I give you glory because you're going to sharpen me, you're going to refine me, it's for your betterment. And you know what? Yeah, I don't feel like training still, but I'm still going to train because I don't want to have any regrets of oh, what if, right? So I'm still going to train to the best of my ability. I'm still going to get my clients' blocks out. I'm still going to give them the most detailed feedback I can. I'm going to enjoy my moments with my wife. I'm going to enjoy my moments with my daughter. And I'm going to live as if though everything's going to be okay, even if I don't know what's going to be. Because what's the alternative? Like just being miserable. And then what if you find out that everything's fine? You know what I mean? But it was hard. It was tough because it also every day made me think about my sister more and more and more. And that's not something I've ever like. I'm at peace with what happened, but I'm never not sad when I think about it, right? And I think about all the things that she missed out. Like, I mean, her kids at this point, man, are like in college, in high school, and she didn't get to see any of that. And then I'm thinking, like, well, you know what, Lord? I got to a point of peace of being like, I know where I'm going. So it's like, and I can look back on my life and be like, if I were to go today, I don't have any regrets. I'm very happy with the life you've given me, with the way you've allowed me to live for you, the lives you've allowed me to impact, not just through powerlifting and community, but through spreading the gospel. I'm very grateful for that. But what would get me, Mariah, what would kill me mentally would be like, but what's that gonna do to my family, my friends, my wife here with our two kids if I'm gone? And that's the part that would be hard, right? But long story short, just praying, kept praying, and eventually got sent to a specialist who not only specializes in blood tests and stuff, but man, this dude was great. His name was Dr. Martin Gonzalez. This dude was great. He does all this different type of physical screening. He does all this different blood tests. He does this different cellular DNA test. He gets you scanned in all these different ways. He like evaluated every single thing possible. And by the grace of God, man, he gave me the answers that I needed. And no cancer, no cancer, don't have cancer. There are certain abnormalities that he was able to explain. He said, hey, some of this stuff just develops in certain people genetically. He said, and this might be more common than what we realize, but he said, but quite frankly, a lot of people aren't in your specific spot where like, okay, you're African American, you have this much muscle on your frame, you have this type of lifestyle, and you also get tested this regularly. He said there might be a lot more people that are dealing with this stuff, and they just don't know because they don't get tested regularly, right? But the good news is none of it is harmful. Basically, there's a few things they wanted to keep an eye on and watch and stuff like that just to make sure nothing develops. But I'm good to go. And the relief that I felt, man, with that was huge. But I just think about, okay, so I'm good to go. But if in those moments of not knowing, if I would have suddenly dropped the ball with my coaching, dropped the ball with my training, dropped the ball with my relationships, doing everything I needed to do, then you find out you're good, but you just wasted a whole year slacking,
Yeah,
not doing what you're supposed to do, not living because of fear, right? And
that's a good point.
that's not me patting myself on the back because it's like that fear was there. I had moments where I'm like, bro, screw this. I don't want to do this. I had moments of think about even my clients like, hey guys, this is what I'm dealing with. I need to take a step back. I had those moments, but I would pray and I'm like, Lord, you are my peace. I don't want to make any decision out of emotion. Guide me what to do. And every time I prayed on, I just felt peace of like, keep going, keep doing what you're supposed to do. Do it to my glory, do it to my name. And that's what I did. And I'm very grateful that I did, obviously. And especially even when I was in the middle of this meet prep, I'm thinking like 10-year anniversary for Powerlifting. I was like, bro, who cares? If I may not have the next however many years, who cares, right? But it's like, no, man, I'm gonna put my best foot forward. Even before I got the good news, I'm like, it's worth it because this is what I have in front of me right now. What else am I gonna do, right? So to bring it back full circle to everything else, it's like it is easy to say that you want something. It is easy when the path seems clear, and it's easy when everything's going your way, right? And it's easy to get complacent. It's easy to feel like, oh, you're at this level of coaching, you're this level lifter, you're this, you're an A student or whatever, you're a high manager job, whatever your position. It's easy to get complacent, but it's like you have to always be looking. You have to always live with the expectation that things can like get turbulent. Things can go the way that you don't want. And it's not what's happening to you, it's how are you going to respond in those moments? Are you going to just be reactive and react to every little thing that happens like a roller coaster? Or are you going to be consistent and have a base foundation of no matter what happens, this is how I'm going to live? And for me, like I said, it's like no matter what happens and all I do it to the glory of God. No matter what happens, I'm going to live each day as if it was my last anyway. And that's why I can tell myself, man, you've been saying live each day as if it was your last since your sister died anyway. So what's different? if today is your last day, or if you do get news that, hey man, this is what it is, you're going to be, we got give you about a year, or you have to go through this or that. It's like, well, I'm going to do it. And I think about like one of the benefits of the fact that I work with such a big roster is I have so many different clients who go through so many different things and do so many different things. And I'm able to pray for them, encourage them, and help push them through it. So it's like all those things I'm saying to them, I got to just say right back to myself. Right. And I'm just so grateful that for the few friends and family members who did know until I made it public, that they prayed for me, they encouraged me, they uplifted me. If I needed to just call and vent, if I need to, because you can know something logically, right? But it doesn't change how
Mm.
you're feeling on the inside. And it's like, it went from feeling so distraught and so concerned and so like, man, what woe is me, to being like, you know what, God, no, like either I believe you're sovereign or I don't. If I believe you're sovereign and I believe everything happens for a reason and that everything's in your hands, and that's the thing I was telling, I was like, God, I'm in your hands. I can't be in better hands. So it's like, I'm just gonna keep living life and moving forward and doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm gonna value these moments with my family. I'm gonna value these moments with my friends. I'm gonna be the best coach I can be. That's why, like, mind you, nationals, all these meets I'm at, this is all going on in the back of my head. I didn't get confirmation of being good till, like I said, about a month or two ago. But guess
Oh
what?
my
When I
God.
go and when I go back and watch myself on these live streams, and I go back and look what I'm doing, it's like I'm full of life, I'm full of energy, I'm giving my best foot forward. And it's because that's how we have to live, that's how we have to approach things. So yeah, I don't care if there's a powerlifting recession. I'm gonna still work my butt off and do everything I can to be the best coach I can be. I don't care if I'm having some downturns with training sometimes. I'm gonna work my butt off and I'm gonna go out there on SBD Austin and I'm gonna PR my total. I'm gonna get my 10 years of doing this. Because even at the high level, man, how many powerlifters can say that you've done this for 10 years and that you got better for all 10 years? Even so the best of the best have stalls. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
like, and that matters to me. That has value to me. I don't care what it means to anybody else. Even a world title only means so much to somebody. That's why some are like, oh, I care about world titles. I was like, oh, I care about total. I care about dots. What has value is up to you. And for me, like SBD Austin, that's my worlds. That's my Sheffield. So yeah, it's a local meets, how the local, but like for me, that has value, that matters. So I'm gonna put for my best foot forward, no matter how tired I am, no matter what I'm going through, because it matters to me. And that's all that matters, right? Regardless of what anybody else thinks about it. Like, look, man, this is the first meet I've done in a long time, because I've done meets where I compete with my clients. This is the first meet in a long time where I truly can say I care just as much about my own performance as my clients. I care just as much about how I do as what Bob does, because I know what I've gone through this year, and I know what these 10 years of powerlifting have led up to and what that means to me. And I know that if not for some of the stuff that I went through earlier in these earlier years, I wouldn't have been mentally prepared to deal with what I'm dealing here, right? And that's the way I look at it. Sometimes we look at the challenge thing you're going through as such a harsh, negative thing. But sometimes what you're going through is to prepare you to be better equipped for the next challenge that's going to come. Because if this would have happened to me even 5 years ago, bro, it would have broke me. I promise you it would have. But
Mm.
because of things I've gone through before now, it's like, okay, I can see how even some of the bad things I went through, God used that to sharpen me and equip me to be better prepared for this. And it's not just about me, right? That's why I want to show out at SBD Austin, because even though, yeah, this is for me and I put value on it, like I said, I am those most people. Most of us aren't going to go to Worlds or Nationals. So I want to show that you can still find value in this sport. You can still find something you care about in the sport and work towards it and get just as much satisfaction, fulfillment out of it as somebody who goes to Worlds or as somebody who goes to Sheffield. It's all about what you choose to place your value in with it, though, right? And not in the sense of validating yourself through it. I'm validated through Christ and Christ alone. Because guess what? Someone can break my legs and I can never powerlift again. Somebody can, all my clients can drop me and then I'm not a coach anymore, right? My wife could leave me. God forbid something happens to my kids, right? All that can be taken away from me. But my faith in Christ, no one can take that from me. So that's what I care about. It's not that I don't care about these other things, but that's my priority. And because of that, though, it leads me to be better in all these other areas. It leads me to be a better coach, better father, better lifter, everything, right? So for me, that's why this meet means so much to me, because it's not just the meet for me. It's a accumulation of all these things I've gone through the past 10 years. And even though it's just 9 lifts and it's just a total, I know in the background what all leads to that performance, right? So yeah, that's why SBD Austin matters to me more than any meet that I've done. Because like I said, a lot of people have main character syndrome, but it's like, I know I'm not the main character. Like God is, Christ is, right? But I'm just grateful to be a part of the process. And I know that what I do goes beyond just me. It's an impact on other people. And if I can go out there and show out that, hey, look, man, despite having a full-time roster, despite spending most of this year concerned about my health, despite the fact that I just had a newborn, if I can go out there and still do my thing, then why can't you go ace that test? Why can't you get that job promotion? Why can't you push through the obstacles you're going through in your marriage? You can. It's just having a willingness to do it. And it's like, once again, not even giving yourself an option for certain things. Giving up's not an option. It's just not. It's not even on the table. It's not even something that I consider. You know what I mean? And if you have that type of mentality with different aspects of your life where you're just like, I'm not going to drop the ball here. I don't care if so-and-so did and still made it. I'm not going to drop the ball here. I'm not going to drop the standard here. You are going to live a better, more fulfilling life because every time when you wake up in the morning, you look in the mirror, before you go to bed, look in the mirror, you can say like, I am truly doing the best that I can. And what more can you ask for?
You'll be at peace. There's a couple things, it's interesting. I had a freaking, first off, what a freaking year you had. I had no idea. I had no idea. To your point, you handled yourself very well. Especially, I couldn't imagine your sister obviously left the family behind, and you as a family man, when you heard that, must have been like it's more than on so many levels. I would have been scary. On so many levels, it would have been a difficult time. Um, and I just had no clue. That also goes to show you don't know what people are going through when you
Yeah,
just see them post and you whatever. And I know it's cliche to say like be kind because you don't know what battles people are going through, but this is like
it's
this
true,
could have
man.
been a crazy one.
It's true. I not to drug, but it's like, it's funny because my wife, my friends will sometimes like they'll make fun of me for this, but like I can be at a grocery store and maybe the person checking me out kind of has an attitude and I'm still trying to be kind to them. Or we can be at a restaurant and maybe the waiter sucks, right? And they're being kind of nasty, but I'm still so kind to them. Or like, I don't, like my meal sucks, but I don't send the food back, blah, blah. And they're like, man, I'm still like, why are you like that? I'm like, because man, look, could this person just consistently be a crappy person? Yeah, it's possible, but maybe they're just having a bad day. I don't know what they're going through. I don't know what they're dealing with, but I do know that the Bible says to treat people with love and kindness. I know the Bible says to love your enemies and pray for your enemies. And not that the rude waiter is my enemy, but it's like, I don't want anyone to judge me for my worst moments. So I try not to do that the same. Not that I tolerate certain behaviors in the sense of right is right and wrong is wrong, but it's like I can acknowledge that an action is wrong or behavior is wrong and still love the person regardless. Because I mess up, I miss it. I'm not perfect. None of us is, right? So it's like, yeah, be kind to people. You just never know how just the way you respond to someone, regardless of how they're being, that could be the thing that just makes the rest of their day. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Because I think about the way certain people have treated me this year, or certain things that they've done to me, or like I've even had a friend. I'm gonna say who I had a friend who like been friends for 5 years. Everything's great. Everything's all good. Spending holidays together type stuff, right? And it's like this person out of nowhere, like just cut all contact with me, like stop responding to my messages, stop responding to my texts. No clue why. Like no idea why. There's no argument. There's no back and forth. Just cold turkey. And for the first month, I'm thinking nothing of it. I'm just still sending messages as normal. I'm thinking like, oh, I know this person gets busy, whatever. Then the second month, it's a little bit weird. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I usually hit this person up on Instagram. Let me text them, make sure they're good because I know sometimes blah, blah, blah. Still nothing. The third month, I'm like, let me just send a direct message. Hey, are we good? Did I do something wrong? If so,
Mm.
please tell me, like, so I can come correct. I can't imagine what it is, but let me know. I want to be better. And at this point, it's been several months and still haven't heard from this person. And like, it's like, I'm very big on no matter what I did or didn't do, even if your reasoning in my mind isn't justified, just the courtesy of explaining goes a long way.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm going to be done with something, I'm going to take time to explain. And because of everything I was going through, man, that hurt me so
Mm.
bad. Like, this is someone that I talk to
Fuck.
daily. It hurt me so badly. And it's so easy to
Oh.
just be like angry and resentful. But instead, I was like, you know what? I'm grateful for the time I had with the person. I hope the person's doing well. And if we can eventually rekindle in the future, cool. It's probably never going to be the same because this was such a hurtful thing to do in that type of way with no explanation. But I just think about the fact that, you know what? Even though this is awful, I'm not going to disregard the past 5 years of this person being such an amazing close friend and someone that I love and care for and disregard all that just because of how they're making me feel right now. right? So yeah, you got to be kind to people, and you got to show grace. Like that's you got to show people grace.
And if it's a situation, even if some people just don't like conflict, no one does. Nobody
Hmm.
likes conflict. But some people are so bad at just saying what's bothering them or having a tough conversation, they would rather just do that. And
Yeah,
it's like, man, if we were ever tight, we got each
yeah,
other's backs. Like this world will take so much from you. If you
yeah,
got a friend who has your back, don't lose somebody because you don't want to have a tough conversation.
yeah.
Maturity is having that tough conversation. And
Exactly.
even if nothing else, leaving on the right foot so it's not awkward around them from
Hmm.
here on out. Just be like, let's tell me what's up. Maybe we don't see eye to eye. Maybe that's that. But let me have some peace of mind so I can go forward. You can go forward. We're at peace with it at a very least something. But 5 years worth, at least give a kick at the can. Can we work this out?
Yeah,
Is there anything salvageable?
especially when you don't even know what it could have been, and especially when this is somebody who we have had conversations involving other people about, like, yeah, just be direct, just like we're both grown men, let's just be honest and talk about how we feel. We can have disagreements, be good. That's something this person would say all the time. So this was truly shocking to me. Like, how some people they aren't really big on conflict, so you may like maybe you're not surprised they would approach it this way. This
Mm,
shocked me. This absolutely shocked me that this has happened. I was just like, I can't grasp or comprehend it. And even when I talk to like, a couple other friends about it who know this person, they can't believe it either. They're like, it's so out of character, abnormal. But that's why instead of getting angry, I was like, you know what? Maybe this person is going through something and I have no clue what it is because nobody knew what I was going through. And maybe for
fair.
whatever reason, this is just how they're reacting to it. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it hurt less. But I'm going to choose to just love the person and continue to pray for them and hope for the best for them instead of being like, oh, how dare they do this to me? Because that's just ego, man. Like whenever we're like, and that's the thing, I'm so grateful for this. I'm still somebody where if you go after someone that I care about, friend, family member, a client, or if you do something that I know doesn't just impact me, like if if something tries to impact my business, which I didn't know impacts my family, I still will like I'm very hard line with like no, like I'll go against that. But whenever it's just something with me, I've tried to get to a point where I'm just like, man, yeah, this hurts your feelings, or yeah, this sucks, but it's like, is it taking anything away from you truly? It's not. Like, yeah, like the friendship's not there, and that sucks, but it's like it's not taking money in my pocket, it's not hurting my family, it's not hurting my friends. So it's like it's just better to just forgive and move forward. Like that's what I'm really just trying to like just accept and do. Because it's easy to feel validated when you know you're not in the wrong and you know the person's wronging you. But it's like, okay, but what does that really do for you? Like, what is me sitting here being angry and going off and like just being, oh, this person sucks? Well, like, what does that really do? It doesn't do anything,
Mm.
right? So that's how I'm trying to approach it. And just also because it's like once again, you just don't ever know what anyone else is going through or dealing with.
That's a fact. That's a fact. That some people, if they're going through something, isolate.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, they
yeah.
isolate, and to crazy degrees. Some people isolate to crazy degrees. So who knows? You're right. And earlier you were also talking about. It's funny because I was having a conversation with somebody about. Um, they were mentioning that a person they knew was in a relationship and there was like adultery involved, etc. And I was mentioning how you never want to give certain things up. And how in this world, you had mentioned, in this world will take, it literally can take anything from you. It can, whatever possessions you have can easily be taken from you. Your job title, whatever your job title is, can be taken from you. Loved ones can be taken from you. There's a few things that can't, that you have to give up.
Yeah.
And it, like your care, your integrity is something that you give up or you keep. And life could take everything from you and you could keep that. And you're a rich man or woman. Your worth is still extremely high.
Mhm.
And if you attach your worth to the clothes you wear, the car you drive, the job title you got, the amount of money you make, you're setting yourself up because you will lose all of those things. But if your worth is your integrity and how you carry yourself, then you're gold. It don't matter.
Yeah.
And everyone who meets you talks about you will be like, class act. That's a class act. That's a classy
Yeah.
person. I remember back in the day talking to friends or whatever, being like, they were describing someone as classy. And when I asked about it, what they meant, they were talking about the way this person dressed, the food they ate,
Mm, yeah.
and yada yada.
Mm.
Like yeah, it's classy. The restaurants they eat at, they're that classy is how you carry yourself.
It's who you are.
It's who you are. That's classy. You
Yeah.
you go through some shit where you could have rolled over on a friend, but you left it hanging on you. The buck stops here and you take it there. That's a class act. That's
Yeah.
that's 10 toes down. That's classy.
Yeah.
People think you can't buy class.
Yeah.
You could pay for class school, but you can't buy class. Jay-Z line.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
true. Friggin' and it's a so when you carry yourself, whether it's like friendships, relationships, whatever, keep in mind integrity is something money can't buy. And as
Yeah.
long as you got that, you're a rich man, you're a rich woman. and
Yeah.
and like if somebody you we all know people in our lives that they might have money, possessions, but you know how they operate in their
Hmm.
relationships, both friendships with significant others, etc. It doesn't matter how much money they have or the house they live in. I promise you they're poor. I
Yeah.
promise you they're poor because
Yeah.
they're this close. They're this close that if they lose any of that, they have nothing.
They're
And
empty
even
and
when they have it, I bet you in their heart of hearts, they know.
they're
Shit.
miserable. They're empty.
Yeah.
It's like I also like everyone has a God-shaped hole in them that I believe can only be fulfilled through Jesus Christ. And it's like if you don't have that, you're gonna validate yourself through something, money, relationships, whatever it may be. But it's like you said, that integrity though is so crucial, right? And that's why, I give word. That's why I'm like, hey, I know in it myself, like I can't maintain the values and standards that are laid out in the word. I'm only able to do that by being born again in the spirit. But it's like when you have integrity, even if you don't have all the materialistic stuff, you're good. You're happy. The way you live, the connections you have, they're genuine, they're real. And when you have integrity, when you do have that other stuff, because you got it the right way, it's gonna last longer. It's gonna be more maintainable. And what's like you said, no one can take your integrity away from you because people can attack your integrity, people can try to comfort your character, but when your character speaks for itself and the evidence speaks for itself, they can't hurt you. I mean, even in this industry, it's like, I said, like, Lord God, I thank God. It's like, yeah, man, you're not going to be able to find like some crazy skeleton in my closet about something I've done in this industry or some crazy scandal with a client or like that. It's not there. That doesn't stop people from trying to find something or trying to throw things at me. But what's ironic is every time that's happened, I've been elevated further because what it is okay, you get more eyes on me, you get more people looking at me, and they're being like, oh, I actually like what I see. Oh, he does this. Let me follow this guy. Let me do this. Like every time it's been elevation. And that's why I tell people, like, look, man, if someone's throwing stones at you, it only sucks if you're in a glass house. You know what I mean? But if your house is built on proper foundation and you actually have integrity, then it's just words. It's not going to hurt you because the people who really know you are going to know what's up. People who maybe don't know you so much are maybe going to take a closer look and then they're going to see what's up. Like, oh yeah, this guy's legit. And if they don't take the time to look and they just go with the narrative, those are people you want around you anyway. So it's like that integrity is so crucial, and that integrity is what's allowed me to build my business to where it's at. It's what else allows me to maintain the relationships that I have, my marriage. You know what I mean? It's like it's everything, and like you said, it's I don't want to use the term easy. I want to say like, oh, it's easy to lose, but it's like it's in your hands basically. Like you can choose to just drop it and throw it away over the
It
smallest thing.
is, yeah. You are the integrity is one thing you have to give up. Nobody can take it from you. You
Yeah,
give it up. Literally to the very end. They can
yeah,
press you, and you either give it up or you maintain it. That's yours. There's few things in life that's like that.
yeah,
That's yours. Your character, that's yours. You're gonna get tested constantly throughout. So you choose wisely. Because at certain points in time, if shit hits the fan, you got that. If you know you got that, you're like, all right, I'm good. Whatever. Talk shit. Do whatever you want. I know. I'll be all right. I'll skate through. But if you're not, or if you've done things that you seriously regret, you're like, oh my god, that's horrible. That's horrible. Everyone's
Yeah.
going to make mistakes, etc. I'm not trying to get a holier than thou thing. I'm just, you know,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
we're moving in all types of directions here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, integrity isn't about never making mistakes. It's about how you respond when you make those mistakes. Do you take
Yeah.
accountability? Do you learn from it? Do you try to get better? Or do you sweep it under the rug, deny, deny, deny? It's a
Mm,
falsehood. You know what I mean? I think that's the thing. Some people, the best way I can put it, so many people get too focused on trying to present themselves as having integrity instead of just having it and just
yeah,
living
yeah,
it. Yeah.
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 Yeah, yeah. I got you 100%. Frank, yeah. What a year. So, is this one of the reasons, like around the World Championship time? Is that why you weren't at Worlds at all? Because even if what I would say is, I've said this before. I think I was saying it. I forget what podcast. Maybe it was with Penna, but either way, um, whether or not you got athletes competing at it
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, you're talking about business wise within the community.
Mm-hmm.
You should go to local meets. You went to local meets, even if like regardless,
Yeah.
just to be the availability. I know I've been to Worlds, like since 2016, and all the time you've been there too, where people are just all over meeting people constantly, and there are
Mm-hmm.
athletes literally all over the world go to the World Championships. Either A, don't have a coach. You'd be surprised how many people, depending on the nation they're from, they either kind of sort of either they use an app now or they
Mm-hmm.
kind of sort of have a coach, but low level, it's the first coach or second coach, but they're really looking.
Mm-hmm.
They're happy with where they got, but they know there could be more. People are going there with open minds and they're looking, actively looking all over the world market. And when you go to a world championships and you're just available and they meet you and all they got to do is click with you and be like, I was looking, wasn't sure who, ran into Marcellus, ran into this person, ran into that person, and
Yeah.
in the pockets of markets in all over the world where you get a foothold. So if the U.S. gets shaky, all over Europe, whether it's Italy, France, whatever,
Yeah.
like I don't UK, which is blowing up. Either which way, I know this year obviously sounds like you had a whole lot on your plate from wife pregnant to the scare to a whole lot.
Yeah.
So whatever, but yeah, I
Yeah.
would love to see you at every World's. Be
Oh,
available.
absolutely.
Be out there.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the plan. I mean, I had my ticket purchased ready to go regardless, right?
Oh,
And
really? Okay.
yeah, and even when it got to the point of like when nobody was going to go or when Wasker had to pull out, because I would have been like my last person to go. I still had like my client Andy for Team GB who was competing, so it's like I still have a reason to go and be there. But that's really what it came down to. It got to the point where it's like, okay, my wife's already pregnant. Here with she's pregnant here with our daughter. Don't want to be gone for a long time already, and then I'm dealing with all this other stuff too. And for me, it was one of those things where it's like, okay, well, even though I'm still going to keep living life, what I'm supposed to do, it's like on the off chance that this is leukemia, do I want to have a whole week spent away from my wife, right? Away from my
Mhm.
pregnant wife and my daughter. It's one thing if I can bring them with and that's convenient, but at that stage of pregnancy, it just wasn't going to be good. Um, so it's like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to, not go to this one because when I looked at it was, I'm like, if that is what this is, if I do have leukemia, then I won't regret that I didn't go because that's more time with my family.
That's
And if
facts.
it's
Yeah.
and if it's not what it is, well, then there'll be other worlds for me to go to, right? Because I agree, because you brought that up on a few podcasts, and I agree so much. It's like, yeah, if you can go, go. You never know what opportunities you're going to get. And what's been cool is, like I said, a lot of people have been asking me, like, oh, is the coaching recession thing kind of hitting you the same way? And I'll say this: I know some high level coaches that it's been hitting. I know some more newer coaches it's been hitting. I, by the grace of God, have not really been experiencing that. My inquiries are still coming in at the usual rate, despite the fact that my roster is typically full. And whenever I have a few spots, they get filled quickly. But I will say that, to your point, a lot of these inquiries are international lifters, though. It's a lot more international people
Mm.
coming on um, from like Europe, Italy, GB, etc. But it's like I know a lot of that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't gone to Worlds last year, in Lithuania and gone to Sheffield and stuff like that. Like making yourself known and going when you can, if you can afford it, totally worth it. If not for the fact that my wife was pregnant, if not for the fact of what I was dealing with, I definitely would have gone. Just because even having been there, like you said, it just makes sense to be there and to network. And it's an experience, man. We talked about this last time I was on, but like Lithuania was amazing. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever experienced as far as the powerlifting community. And Sheffield as well. Sheffield, as far as an event, For sure. But as far as like just meeting people from around the world and
Mhm.
connecting and networking and seeing how much we have in common, all because of this small, squat, bench, and deadlift, it's really, really cool. So anyone that can, I encourage them to go if they're able to. I agree with that. It's just, like you said, with everything I
Life,
was
life
going
be
through, I was
life,
like,
man. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, yeah, this is kind of like the last thing on my mind right now. So like if I would have had a client there that I could actually directly handle, because obviously for GB, I can't handle since I'm American. I would have made it because it's like, okay, I'm not going to shortchange and not be where I need to be. But since that wasn't the case, I was like, okay, like God, maybe this is your way of like me staying here and about. And then even with World Games, right? Like I was so excited for that. But then like, well, not just all my clients, most of the American team pulled out for it, right? And even that, I was at peace with it. So I was like, all right. I mean, like, it's one of those things like, hey, I want to go. And if even one of the girls going to be there, but the fact that they didn't, I was like, okay, that's fine because with all the stuff going on and all the financial going on and the tension and all that kind of stuff, I know it gave my wife so much peace that I didn't go. So,
Mm.
it all kind of worked out. But needless to say, I know me and my team are hungrier than ever to get back there. So yeah.
Yeah, like I encourage people just because when you think about if you're gonna choose, it's almost like first off, as an event itself, 100% agree. World Sheffield, it's just being you were there, Lithuania, being in the crowd, watching the battles, you'll never forget it. And
Yeah.
being like around the community, it's actually fun. But then as a coach, whether you're like a powerlifting programming coach, handler, nutritionist, whatever it is, people who are thinking about it, humming and hawing, if they see you, they'll come up and start talking to you. And you don't
Hmm.
know it, but they're assessing. It's
Hmm.
like a vibe check. Do we get along? Do we whatever? And from you don't need a high level athlete. This athlete, first off, if they're at Worlds, they're going to be good. They might
Hmm.
not be like Bobb Matthews, but even if they're like nominated 15th, they're solid. But all you need is one person from like Italy or something to go back and be like, love Marcellus. Let me
Yeah.
tell you. And then all of a sudden, the people at his gym, the people at her gym, it starts growing and you have footholds in different countries and the spread
Yeah.
is good.
Yeah.
So there's that. But on top of that, I have seen and know people in banquets, top level people who were already going to leave their coach, and they sit beside so and so, and they sat there because they're wondering and humming, and they're like, "Well, here he is. Why don't I sit beside him? Well, there she is." And then they start talking, and then the next day you find out they shifted over to that coach. And they came to
Yeah.
Worlds with that understanding that I think I'm leaving this coach, not sure what lily pad I want to land on. Of course, changes happen all the time. Nothing wrong with that. You got to self-evaluate. And timing is everything in being available. And you're there,
Absolutely.
they sit beside you, they ask some questions and whatever. And not only the questions on how you've programmed, but also just the vibe check. And then next thing
Yeah.
you know, you got yourself
Yeah.
freaking whatever,
And
it's a big name. I'm talking world champions. This is how
yeah.
it
And I
happens.
can and I can give you a couple examples of that. And this ties back to the importance of what we said, like, hey, this is why you got to market, why you got to post, right? Because even if someone comes up and meets you and talks to you, you have a great talk. If they then go to your account and there's nothing there, it's like, oh, maybe
Mm.
this guy's not really about it. Maybe he's just a talker, right? But like I said, Annie Nelson, well, we worked together going to this past Worlds, right? And as a result of that, the amount of people from Team GB that have reached out to me or want to work with me,
See?
that's been huge. But to your other point, and this ties back into the content stuff, right? 'Cause at this point, if you go to my YouTube, you go to Instagram, apart from now, I'm there. There's content, right? There's no doubt of what I'm doing. And it's not a thing where like, oh, it's from 5 months ago. You every week there's something because the things I did to get here, I'm still doing. That's something I'm very big on. I'm like, don't work hard and then coast. Keep doing those same things. And this will probably be a fun little announcement, which you already said that I can make it. So basically, like I said, going into work, the content's there, right? Cool. You do your job, you do it well. You go to World School because of Worlds. Went to Sheffield, right? Well, at Sheffield, after Sheffield was actually at the banquet, Ade came up to me and was just asking me questions like, "Hey man, like I like your stuff now, like what you do. Want to pick my brain? Can you show me some different stuff?" So I was like, "Yeah, sure, man. We're chilling. We're chilling. We're eating. We're drinking. We're having fun, and we're powerlifters, so we can talk about that anytime, right?" So I talked to him about a few things, like, "Yeah, I would maybe try this, tweak that, blah blah blah." And then, he does this thing going into Worlds, and then after Worlds, he's like, "Hey man, I see you offer non-client mentorship calls. Can I get on a call with you, go over some stuff?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So he pays for the call. We talk about some things, this, that, and the third, blah blah blah. And then we're in November now, so this was September. He reaches out to me, right? And him and a few other people from GB. And the timing's crazy, man, because like this is why I know like God's hands in it. Because like I said, I very rarely have openings, and I'm very strict with my cap. But I had a few people like stop one. A couple people like just financial stuff because once again the recession. Hey man, I just gotta like save some money. A couple others just been doing it for years. They've hit all their goals. They're good to go. And I'm going through emails. I'm like, this is a lazy email. I'm not really interested, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm not in a rush to fill these spots, it's whatever. And then I get like a few people like from GB reaching out at once. And Ade was one of them. Um,
Mm,
and so we had our call back in like it's like September, I want to say. He did the Advoncus me in October, obviously, and we officially started our first block the week after that. So Ade's working with me now. And none of that
huge.
happens though. None of that
Yeah.
happens if you don't do the content, go to the meets, touch it all leads to it, right? So yeah.
I mean, I got news for anybody listening that's a coach. People go online and they check you out. If there's nothing there, or to your point about the 5 months thing, if you haven't done anything in 5 months, they think "Man, he's half in. He's on a hiatus. Do you got another job right going on? What's going on here?" But
Yeah.
yeah, they're going to do before they ever approach you. Hey, just like anybody, you're going to go to a restaurant. I go online, like you. So, but Ade is huge, man. That's a huge acquisition for you. And
Yeah.
yeah, you were at Sheffield. Be available. Be there. And then once you get a foothold in one nation, and you get some of the bigger stars. But Ade, frick, he made a post after Avances had his recap, it sounded like he was talking about I was doing self-programming and I think I'm ready to put a pin in that and move forward, which I think is a great idea. Now,
Yeah.
obviously he did phenomenal self-programming, but I think there's meat on the bone there.
Yeah.
He's got untapped potential yet still to go. We all were talking about he could be a 900 kilo lifter. Still believe that. I think letting someone else take the wheel is an excellent idea. And some people get away with being like coaching themselves, and it
Mhm.
depends on certain personalities. But for some people, it's not a bad thing because you strip all ego, all
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
That's so important. And I know
Yeah.
some of us think like, no, I could be unego programming for myself and my RPEs, my numbers, my how much I could do, and I just like inner minds were all the toughest of tough, or we're too lenient in certain ways, or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
You need someone
No,
else to be
no
like,
one can be
that
a
squat's
hundred
high.
percent objective with themselves, man. Like
For
I
sure.
think I'm one of the best coaches in the game. I have a coach. Like I work with Brad
Uh,
Couliard because it's like because when you're lifting and when it's you, you can't. It's you. You're gonna get emotional, right? And don't get me
yeah.
wrong. What Ade's done himself for the past 3 years has been incredible. I mean, the dude came in with so much data, which I love because that makes my job so much easier. And he's very self aware. And I think even being self aware enough to be like, okay, I've come this far on my own. Now I'm ready to to work with someone and do what we need to do. And I think it's gonna go well. Like it's a quick turnaround into their nationals. We're gonna kind of just cruise through that, do what we need to do. But then by the time it's time to build into worlds and stuff like that. I'm excited, man. I'm
Mm.
excited. Like just like it's this cool dynamic, and I've talked about this before, where it's like even though it's a job, and even though I'm a coach, I'm like in coach. Hey, what can I do to maximize my clients' results? As just a fan of powerlifting, sometimes I have to take a step back and be like, bro, this is awesome. I get to work with Ade or Bobb Matthews, Ashton, Peach, whatever, and get to set them up for what's going to be one of the most historic battles ever. And like when I take myself out of work mode and just appreciate that, I'm like, this is awesome. This is dope. So
Mm.
yeah, I'm very excited for it, man. I think we're gonna have him do some crazy things.
Let's take a quick 2-minute pee break here, come back, and then we'll dive into. I want to couple things about the powerlifting recession before we move on from that, and
Yeah.
then yeah, let's dive into. You got you at SBD Austin in all your roster. You got like a million people. Obviously, Bobb Matthews coming back. I love the Addy announcement. That's freaking awesome because he's a phenomenal 83 and in the movement inside GB. But, anyways, let's take a 2-minute break, my man, and we'll come back.
So
All right, we're back. And I was gonna say also, about the powerlifting recession and the split. I can see that that makes sense in terms of how that would cause rippling effects that we're probably going to feel right now. I do wonder. So there's that one theory that potentially, because the totals are growing so crazy in all the different sports that new entrants will look at it and tell themselves, well, I'll never get that high. I'll never
Mhm,
make it to the world championships. I'll never blah, blah, blah.
mm,
So then they're discouraged and they don't enter. Now, of
yes.
course, I think a large part of these totals that are swelling is because the talent pool is swollen. So we have
Mhm,
a more robust talent pool to pull from. So thus you're going to find your outliers. So thus you're going to have these totals. Talent pool shallows up, and then you're going to have a much smaller sample size to find your outliers, and then the numbers will come down. So I'm wondering the correlation between fewer participants and if there'll be a slowing down anyways of the numbers. We'll have to see. And then so that's one thing. And that's
mm,
where also just quickly off the hop, why when people say in the untested, well, this person, this lifter broke world records in 2 to 3 different weight classes. So that means they must be far better pound for pound a lifter than Perk, Atwood, Matthews, because they're only breaking world records, some of them in one weight class. And then I would have to say, like, you guys don't understand how law of averages work, percentages, samples, like the sample size amount of people in the untested is so much more shallow that
mm,
sure. It's probably a lot easier if you got one outlier who will just rip through 3, 4 weight classes and then be like, well, okay, let's compare that accomplishment to what's happening in the tested side. Who else do you have that rips through that many different weight classes? Well, whole nother ball game when it comes to sample size. That
mm.
is how talent works. If you're, it's where the quote "big fish in a small pond" comes from. That's why it's real, it's legit. So I do wonder how the powerlifting recession impacts growth in terms of numbers. If it does, if it doesn't, it's not the only factor, because our knowledge and programming, et cetera, certainly is a factor in sharing of that knowledge. So there's other factors involved. There's
Yeah.
that. Then there's also, um, when speaking about possible reasons for the recession, uh, the death or deathbed of CrossFit has been
Mhm,
impactful. That
mhm,
gets a lot of people a barbell, gets people, if nothing else, into the gym, into a gym, getting equated with a barbell, and then all of a sudden you find powerlifting and or just barbell strength lifting in general. The
mm,
popularity of Olympic lifting, CrossFit, etc., they're sister brother sports, whereas other ones that don't include a barbell is more foreign, so that you're not going to have as many crossover athletes. If nothing else, any
yeah,
sport where it's throw a barbell in your hands is going to help powerlifting. And the death of a sport that's throw a barbell in your hands is going to hurt powerlifting. So just period,
yeah,
barbell lifting is we all help each other. I follow some Olympic lifters, and I some of the Olympic lifters that I follow in King of Lifts, I've noticed, oh, you follow King of Lifts, you've never powerlifted. You'll probably never powerlift, but you're an Olympic lifter. You give a shit. You're a strength sport. You still think it's cool watching people get after it. So
mm,
that matters. And then in terms of, if you think I'm never going to make it to the tippy top, I'll never make it to worlds, I'll never be, when reality hits, and I'm not going to be those individuals. Do you stick or do you stay? And I started wondering, other sports have people who watch regardless, like baseball, football, and a lot of people stopped playing high school. Maybe you
mm,
did in college. Some people, you're in a beer league. I don't know how it works with powerlifting. I'm not sure if you find out you're not going to be at the tippy top of powerlifting, maybe you still lift in the gym.
mm,
Doesn't mean you
mhm,
stop lifting, but maybe
mm,
you just stop competing. So
mm,
you were in the gym. This is one advantage powerlifting has. We don't need you to like change your life here. You're probably already a gym goer, and
mm,
then you heard of powerlifting and thought, well, here's a cool way of finding some new life goals. If for just a few seasons you hit it a little bit, maybe you get a little interested. Maybe you found out about Marcellus, or you found out about Leah Bavois, and you're a girl who's like, wow, boom, you start following her. Maybe you start having some dreams and whatnot. But when you're done and you realize I'm not going to be Leah Bavois, and doesn't mean you quit the gym, but are you still going to pay attention to powerlifting? Is it entertaining enough for you to pay attention and follow and watch as a fan who lifts but doesn't compete? because you're like, I'm
Yeah.
not going all in. I'm not going all in because I'm never going to make it that far. Still good at SBD, but are you still going to watch? Like a lot of people who used to play soccer, baseball, football, hockey in their youth will watch until they're in their 50s, you know, with a six
Yeah.
pack by their side, long when their athletic days are gone. That will be the difference. So when people talk about when you realize you're not going to be a 1%er, do you stick around? If we could get past that piece, which I think Sheffield will help. I don't think
Mhm.
you could still enjoy it. And Worlds now is getting better and better and better for that,
Yeah.
and the media packages around it. But I think,
Yeah.
anyways, that's how we survive, where it's not only linked to participation rate. If we could just have gym going SBDers. So while the
Yeah.
participation rate goes up and down from 60 to 40,000 in a massive country like America, is all we need is people who SBD at the gym, or even just don't have to do all of them. You just weight train and you're like, this is interesting to me. I don't know.
Yeah. No, you made a lot of good points here, and I feel like there's a few. They all kind of tie in together too. First of all, we always know like viewability and marketing and making something just more appealing to watch is always going to be useful. Period. Sheffield does a great job of that. World's getting better with it. Even some of these local meets, like the Advances meet, and I'm sure SBS is going to be great. Like doing more stuff like that is going to be huge because it will give that local lifter something to still strive for even if it's not worlds or nationals, right? That's one thing that I hope Power America eventually does do, like qualifying totals, because there is an aspect of I'm working towards this thing that I'm not at yet that is appealing to
Mm,
people, right? So that's definitely true. I will also say that I think certain lifters kind of skew, and I'm not blaming them to be clear. Like everyone I'm about to mention, I have mad love for it, but certain things look skewed because, like you look at your Joseph Bornsteins, your Agatas, your Will Balls, right? And all people see is wow, they're this young doing this type of weight. What chance do I have? But they don't look at like, okay, but how long have they been powerlifting? Joe has been powerlifting for I think like 8 years.
mm,
Agata's been training for like some years now. Will Ball's been doing this for a little bit too. You know what I mean? Like yes, they're young, but they've still been at it for they were at it long enough to figure out if they were going to be good, right? And I think that's one of the issues is that a lot of people they see that they think, oh, that can't be me, but imagine if Joe would have done that. Imagine if Joe in his first 1 to 2 years looked at Taylor Atwood or Russell Orhe and was like, oh, that can't be me. Instead, he was like, well, I think I'm strong. Let me get at this and see what I can do, right? So I think that mentality is a huge part of it is understanding that. And I think that's the difference too. So with other sports, right? Like let's say basketball, football, soccer, you get into it at such a young age, typically we're kids, right? Where you're just
mhm.
doing it because it's fun. The 6-year-old isn't thinking about they're going to necessarily be in the NBA or not, right? Maybe they like, oh, I like the NBA, but they're not really thinking about it. They're playing because it's fun. They're having fun with their friends. They're playing, right? You're at school. It's something to do. Team bonding, participation, right? So they do it for so long and they get so invested in it that even if they realize, oh, I'm not going to go to college on scholarship for this, I'm going to the NBA, they spend enough time in it that they're still invested into it, right? And we can see that with a lot of powerlifters. Like I have clients, right, who no longer powerlift, right? They may just do general strength training or they just work out for hypertrophy, but they still watch powerlifting meets. They still tune into it because they were ingrained in the community for long enough to still care. So to your
Mm,
point, that's what we need. I don't need you to have to do this forever, just long enough to be ingrained enough to care. The problem is people aren't even getting their foot through the door. And part of why that's happening is, like you said, a lot of people still watch because they're just into strength training, period. But a lot of these newer lifters, Ryan, they don't strength train first then powerlift. Their first exposure to fitness for a lot of them is just powerlifting. So they get right
mm,
into it. And in the moment they realize their first year or so, oh, I'm not going to be as good, then they kind of pull back and go away from it, right? The other thing to your point is like CrossFit. A lot of these things feed into each other. But unfortunately, like I said, CrossFit's not really a thing right now, right? And a lot of these people, especially like this new generation, like on TikTok and stuff like that, when they're getting on TikTok, the fitness they're getting exposed to is more bodybuilding stuff, the hypertrophy stuff. So that's what they're getting into. And the problem with that, it's not before that was a good thing because hey, if you get involved in bodybuilding or hypertrophy first, you'll probably eventually make your way to strength training. But the problem is this new generation of content creators, they're doing all this like, oh, super scientific, super low volume, high intensity type training, which I'm not knocking altogether. There's a time and place for everything, but it's like the way they're describing training is almost so like lazy and get in, get out that if that's what you're used to, you're not going to transition to something like powerlifting where you have a 2 or 3 hour SBD day, right? So
mm.
it all feeds in together. It's like people that are getting into fitness are either jumping right into powerlifting, I think almost too early, and they're making their goals being more about being as competitive as possible instead of just saying, hey, do I even like this, right? So when they figure out they're not competitive, they just stop and pull out, and they haven't been in it long enough to keep caring. Or they're getting exposed to other aspects of fitness first, but the way that, because before, man, bodybuilders were like, oh, we're gonna train hard, we're gonna push all this volume, we're gonna push these heavy workloads. Bodybuilders still randomly max out for fun. And now you don't have that. And mind you, I'm somebody where, oh, the Swolefessor is simple, specific, scientific. I like the science and evidence-based stuff, but it's gone to such an extreme now where people will take one study and make this whole training philosophy around it. And a lot of that now is just very like, oh, very minimum effective volume, just do 2 sets on 3 movements, then leave. That's not going to transition to powerlifting as easily because the mentality is totally different, right? So I think that plays a big role with it as well. So it's like, we got to get the marketing to continue to, which I think it's getting better. Like the white light media post that they're doing, like the thing they did about Natalie Hunter, like the whole little like day in the life of. I think they just dropped one today about Elliot Sykes, day in the life of for Junior Worlds. More stuff like that, because if you get more invested in the people and the journeys, that's going to help like it does every sport. But then we also have to just find a way to get people into fitness, but in a way that can transition to powerlifting and get people just to just try it and enjoy it for the sake of just having fun first. And then look, I'm not somebody where I'm like, oh, put blinders on. It's just you versus you. That's not my personality type. I like, even though the goal is to get better, I like using others, competing against others to get better, right? Both as a lifter and a coach. But there has to be some level of you doing it for yourself initially, or you are going to quit the moment you realize, oh, I'm not going to be the next Austin Perkins, right? That's just the reality of it. Like, I feel like if you stay with it long enough, you'll find other things in it that you care about and value that's going to keep you with it, even when you're not going to get to the top.
Mm, is that like, so you're talking about bodybuilding, and I'm a stitch aloof to the bodybuilding, what's going on right now, the trends. I know
Yeah.
at one point, obviously, Ronnie Coleman, I believe he was the most successful
Mm-hmm.
um, bodybuilder in terms of the amount of Mr. Olympias he won, etc. And he was a power lifter. And there's quotes of him saying, you do the power lifts first to build, and then you sculpt with all the other stuff. He was like,
Yeah.
obviously him, massive squats. He even wore a freaking squat suit. Like
Yeah.
he was crazy. And then like he was super duper in. And then you have Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's probably the most iconic, due to like obviously movies and everything as well. But
Mm-hmm.
Arnold Schwarzenegger was a power lifter. He was a national champion in Germany. He
Yeah.
broke records in Germany. He was powerlifting in the 60s when it was like a pseudo kind of sport. But there's
Mm-hmm.
literally newspaper clippings of him in the 60s at the German national championships. And he also was a huge advocate of do the power lifts, squat, bench,
Yep. The
deadlift. And
barbell lifts.
he
Yep.
pumping iron was him squat, bench, deadlifting, and then doing the other stuff as well to round off.
Yep.
But like you had said, trends come, go, etc. And is it actually in bodybuilding? I wasn't aware. Is it slightly getting away from the SBD now,
Oh,
or
absolutely,
oh
absolutely.
yeah,
Like there's still people who still stand it, but there's a lot of people now who are like, and here's the what annoys me the most about it. There'll be people where they know for a fact, hey, you built your foundation doing the big three, pushing higher volumes, training really, really hard. And now that you have that physique, yeah, you can maintain with less, but now you're maybe like, oh, this is the way to train. That's not how you train because it's popular. It's kind of controversial. It gets clicks and views. Like, oh yeah, you don't need to do 3 sets. Like, do 2 sets of 8 on all your movements, and then get in, get out. Like, oh, don't do bench press. Do just chest press because there's more stability. So there's more hypertrophy. You can just really push the muscles. Oh, don't do a normal tricep press down. Put this cup on your wrist and attach it to the attachment
mm,
so it can be all in just a tricep. And you're not giving out because of grip. It's basically taking away like in a lot of senses the hard parts of training, which are also the fun parts of training, just trying to make it as scientific and efficient, but which isn't really science because we know that science isn't taking just one thing and taking it to an extreme. You got to look at everything collectively. But that's what the wave is, especially with this new generation. If you look on TikTok, you look on a lot of Instagram, that's what they're pushing. This super like technical, machine based only, like, oh, why would I do a barbell squat and risk my back? I'm just going to do leg press and stuff like that. It's very
yeah.
different than what we grew up with. And I think that is playing a role because, like I said, when you have your Arnold Schwarzeneggers, your Ronnie Coleman's, people like that, it naturally, whether you go bodybuilding or powerlifting, they kind of branch into each other. The whole idea of power building. But now, if it's like, oh, don't bench press, just chest press, or oh, get in, get out the gym, for efficiency and stuff like that, and they don't even, it's like the best way to put it is like it's almost like they don't even enjoy training. They just want the results of training. So they try to
That's what
do
it
it in
is.
the most like, efficient scientific way, but that just doesn't transition well into powerlifting at all.
Power building was huge a hot minute ago,
Yeah.
but you're right. Look at, is it easier to do, hamstring curls or squat or
Yeah.
deadlift? Is it easier? Like, of course. Every time
Yeah.
you get in there and you're like, I got to load up the squat rack and we're going to rock and roll. Yeah, that is putting hundreds on hundreds of pounds on your back or just hopping in a machine. Of course, one's easier than the other.
Hmm.
And I think to a large extent, you're right. A lot of people would love to look like some of these people. And is there a way of doing that without doing the hard way? It'll always be a place for that. If that's why there's such thing as like 30-minute abs. But
Hmm.
it's the 30-minute that got me in the
Hmm.
abs. I want abs, but I'm only going to give you 30 minutes of my day. That kind of
Hmm.
stuff, unfortunately. But hopefully we go back to the grassroots meat and potato because,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think we will eventually because the thing is, I always tell people, people can quote whatever study they want, they can push whatever extreme they want, and there's always extreme. Like, there were people that were doing the opposite, where it's like, oh, I'm gonna do sets of 20 on everything, super high volume, that's just not effective. Now it's like the opposite end, but results always speak. I think a lot of these guys that are doing this right now, like I said, they're looking at these people who are really jacked now, who didn't build their foundation that way, but they're thinking, well, that's what they're doing now. I'm saying to do now, so I'm going to train that way. But they're going to realize, okay, that's going to work for you maybe your first year or two because you're a beginner and you'll respond to almost anything. But they're
Yeah.
eventually going to realize, oh, if I want to keep getting bigger, I have to actually do more, work harder, push harder, do more than just this minimum effective dose. And those are the people that will eventually, hopefully, swing the pendulum back because you're either going to have to do that or you're just going to like quit because you can't keep doing the super minimum style and think you're just going to keep growing on it forever. You're not going to. All the people that seem to be like they're doing that is because they already had the foundation that a lot of these newer kids don't have.
100%. Okay, my man, let's dive into. I also got some questions just general about powerlifting, but let's
Yeah.
dive into your team, some updates. Obviously, a big one you had mentioned earlier briefly, but Bobb Matthews returning.
Mm-hmm.
And Bob, obviously, man, if ever has been said, it's been said to death. He dances to his own beat. This dude, um, you missed him on US Nats, so then missed him at Worlds, missed him at World Games, missed him at Avances. And as a powerlifting fan, it's the correlations between the amount of competition days for our athletes is probably closest to like a boxer or MMA fighter that they do it 2 to 3 times a year. Same.
Mm-hmm.
Same on our end if you're in the top end. So when Bob misses like over a year and he's in his prime, it's as a fan, it's like, oh my God, we got to get this guy back on the platform as soon as possible. He came on King of the Lifts, announced it, saying, I will be at SBD Austin. And then, of course, we have the big circling of the wagons for the longest time was Rondell and Bob. And
Mm-hmm.
all the talk and hoopla came close at US Nats. And then we talked about that with Bob and Rondell, how um, we dropped the news Rondell will be there too late. Bob had already pulled out and could
Mm-hmm.
not get back in, and it is what it is. But looked like we had an opportunity here, and then as luck would freaking have it, this has become our Pacquiao Mayweather. How it happened way late. Rondell got injured, isn't in advances. He hasn't pulled out of SBD Austin, but
Mm-hmm.
the injury he was talking about that plagued him, and I forget the word for it, but it's in his caption. I was in silent worker talking to people, and they're like, "Do you understand how bad that can be?"
Mm-hmm.
Some people it'll flare up like for here on out. It never fully goes away, at least with modern technology. Who knows what they're going to be able to do? But as of right now, that's the type of thing that just flares up every now and then. It's something you got to deal with. Don't want to catastrophize this thing and like, oh my God, Rondell will never come back. But it's not small. It's not small. So wondering your, a bit of a look behind the curtain there. Obviously, Bob was on here talking about it, but Bob over the last month, we've seen the 1,000 pounds in the gym. He looks freaking primed and ready. And how you feel as a coach as well, being like, damn, looks like Rondell might be pulling out of this one. So these two might not face. However, does it matter? Does it impact the motivation? Bob is his own animal, anyways. Like
Yeah.
he's different. He's motivated differently. And yeah, and that. What's your opinion on it?
Yeah, I mean, as a coach and just as a fan of the sport, I want to see Bob versus Rondell as much as anybody else, and just knowing what that's going to look like. And Bob has said, and I've said, it's like, look, we know that on paper right now, Rondell's stronger. We know that, but we still want to see, okay, but how close are we? Because Bob still has, like 10 more kilos to gain before he fills up the weight class. We think it's going to be a more of a back and forth what people think, and it's a thing where like I think Bob himself said it was like, hey, if Rondell doesn't come in 100% though, that opens the door a little bit more, and that makes it kind of interesting. But so originally when I knew, and that's the whole reason why Bob was like, so originally, Bob wanted to be like, hey man, since we started working together, because Bob and I started working together like 2021, it's like it's been back-to-back meets. It's like Pro Series, Nationals, Pro Series, Nationals. Okay, now we're switching. Okay, Nationals, Worlds. And it's like, man, I haven't had the time to really just build the way that I want to, right? And all my clients know that I'm like, hey man, at the end of the day, it's like I'm kind of like an Uber driver. Like I'm driving, right? But you telling us where you want to go. If you want to take the next
Mm.
year off, you're not going to hear from me like, oh, you're one of my top level lifters. You have to do A, B. It's like, that's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. So since he got the spot for World Games, the mentality was like, okay, well, you know what? World Games only comes once every 4 years. And Bob being confident in himself, he's like, I'm gonna have other nationals. I'm gonna have other opportunities for Worlds. World Games comes once every 4 years. Let me build towards that, right? But then unfortunately, just due to a lot of the circumstances that impacted really a lot of Americans in terms of like some stuff with the finances and some of the last minute stuff that they got added on that we weren't told originally as far as finances, and then some of the travel restrictions and all this type of stuff. It just becomes things like, man, jumping through all these hoops is just not worth it, right? But that's when SBD Austin became a very enticing thing, right? And even though like with advances, like they wanted him to do that as well, Bob's like, it just like I'm not gonna do two back-to-back meets like that. It just doesn't make sense. I'm gonna focus on one, right? And our hope was that Rondell was going to do the same thing. So when he signed up, when we saw that he was signed up for both, it's like, oh, that's going to be rough. But it made it interesting. You guys have talked about it because it's like, okay, if Rondell pushes hard against Nonzo, and then in my mind can't be, even if he's healthy, can't be at 100% strength recovery, that makes him versus Bob even more interesting. So I'm still very excited
Mm.
about it. But when I saw that he pulled out, it's kind of split on one, and I'm like, okay, that sucks because how bad is this? And are you still going to be good for SBD Austin? But on the flip side of it, I'm like, I think it's smart that he did that because listen, Rondell's the type of person, from what I've seen, where even when he's hurt, he can still push through and show out. But I feel like
Mm.
it would have been something where if he does that, SBD Austin just can't go down. So my hope is that with him pulling out of the advances meet, SBD Austin can now go down because he has more time to hopefully heal up and build. So I really, really hope that happens. If it doesn't, it's not the end of the world because it's like, assuming nothing crazy happens again, we'll be able to see both of them at Worlds. Rondell can finally do his normal nationals. Bob can do nationals. Barney, they both win, which they should. We can see the head to head at Worlds, which is even cooler because that's even more time for Bob to build, Rondell to get healthier. But I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't be disappointed if Rondell couldn't do SBD Austin because it's like we've all been wanting to see it. We've all been excited for it. I'm gonna be excited, for Bob and Ashton and Sean doing their thing regardless. But it's like that's been like the big thing for it. You know what I mean? So hopefully he's healthy enough to do it, or at least healthy enough to where it's like, hey, I couldn't do both meets, but I can push through and do one. And if it kind of sets me back a little bit, I can build back up to my nationals. I'm hoping that ends up being the case. But of course, first and foremost, I want Rondell to do what's best for his longevity. Like, at the end of the day, there's no point in forcing an SBD Austin if that's going to set you back so much to where then you can't do nationals, can't go to worlds. Because I know for Rondell, that's his big thing too. I want to get back on the world stage for full
Mm-hmm.
powerlifting, right? So I, of course, will always respect the lifter doing what's best for them. And that's why I tell people it's easy for us as fans to talk about what we want from an entertainment standpoint, but these lifters are people with their own goals and timelines. We have to be respectful of that to a degree, as hard as that can be, right? But yeah, I really hope he can make it, man. It's gonna be so hyped, and I just because in a way, I kind of, even though of course it's going to go down to worlds, hopefully with SBD Austin though, with it being like a smaller meet and less total lifters, they can really focus in on some different things that I think marketing wise could be really really cool. You know what I mean? So I hope he can still make it.
I, first off, like, again, not to read too much into the tea leaves here, but Rondell has to recuperate because Rondell cannot retire never having won a world title
No man,
open.
no, I
That
can't.
that can't happen. At some point in his career, he's young. like he's young. It's got to happen. And one thing I absolutely loved him at the North American Bench Press Championships,
Hmm.
um, and breaking a world record and doing his damn thing. Seeing him at the IPF level, international meet, breaking an IPF world record. Thank God. All right,
Yeah.
we're back.
Long time coming.
A
Long time
long
coming.
time coming.
I don't
About
think
yeah.
people understood how important that was either because, and I get it because like you want to see him do full powerlifting, but like guys, he hasn't been on the international stage in years and been able to
Mm,
officially set a record like that. And this is good. This is good because it's like, all right, cool. He's back. He's really, really back, right?
mm.
And even though I know what he's doing with doesn't impact the bench quite to the same degree, the fact that he was able to manage that gives me some hope that okay, because you didn't kill yourself at the advances meet, maybe we'll be in a good spot. But yeah, I mean, I want to see him, on the world stage again. I think that's just what powerlifting needs. You know what I mean? Like I think there's just certain people, like him, Agata, where it's just not the same when they're not there. It just doesn't feel like the same sport to a degree almost. You know what I mean? So yeah.
And also the threat level that Bob is. Like Bob yourself will say, hey, we'll say Rondell would be the favorite. That's fine. Like Rondell he's posted up numbers.
Mhm.
However, however, the threat level that Bob is, and at this point in time, with all respect to Nonzo, who I think has a crazy future ahead of him, 988 is not. I think we all believe what Bob is capable of is a G and up.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I would, you could speak to this, but I think that threat level that Bob presents is what Rondell really has to be careful of. If he green lights this and he shows up, we anticipate and Bob anticipates you are the favorite as long as you're 100%. If you're 100%, I need to apply pressure and make you miss. You miss, you don't execute. It's
Mhm.
your ass. And it's been a long time. We don't know if there's another 120 in the world who could talk to Rondell like that and say,
Yeah.
you're the favorite. Got you. But you don't execute, you're not 100%, that's your ass. You're going to take an L. I think the Bob's the only at the moment 120 alive who could say that. And from what we're seeing, I can't picture Rondell being 100% walking into this. That's what if Rondell pulls the trigger and says, "I'm going in." Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's gonna be
My
amazing.
friend, I hope
It's
you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Bob looks, you could speak
Yeah.
to it, but Bob looks a G and up. I've seen him do a G and 20 in the gym.
Yeah.
He's not playing around.
Yeah, no, I was Bob and I were just talking about this a few days ago because the way we've gone about things, because people were used to for the past 5 years of working together, just seeing him PR back to back, triples, doubles, singles, sort of just PR and PRing on a tear. But obviously, as years go by, your trading age increases, adaptation slow down, you have to pace things differently. So that's why we spent like all that time when he was on the social media hiatus. Obviously, he's still sending me his stuff. We're still training, and we were building up his muscle mass, his work capacity. I got to train with him in person at the advances meet, and being able to see him in person and see like from worlds to now, I'm like, oh yeah, we've been putting in the work with it. But now with the way we're pacing things, like for reference, right, for context, and you know enough about programming, right, where you'll understand this. Like every other time Bob's hit like 1,000 kg, like total, it's always been on like the final block of a macro where your fully peaked fitness is the highest point. This time he did it on the second to last block of the macro. Like that's where the base is going into this peak for this final meet. So he's gonna be strong. Like Bob is undeniably the strongest he's ever been right now. Like it's not even close. So it's one of these things where like, okay, if you got Bob coming in the strongest he's ever been, got Rondell coming in at 100%, that's a different talk. That's a different game. Because I'll say this: even Rondell at 100% of health and strength, you can't go 7 for 9. You might not even be able to go
No.
8 for 9, depending on what type of jumps you're taking on that squat and deadlift. You just can't. So if you're not at 100%, you absolutely can't miss anything. Like you can't, because if you do, we're gonna switch. Because I'll tell you right now, like when it comes down to like our goals in terms of okay, we want to secure 1,000 kg or more on the platform, absolutely. And I know like it's like it's a competition like oh how close you get like relative to the total of the national weight class stuff like that. Bob doesn't care about none of that. Like if there's an opportunity and we can load and we can beat Rondell, we are 100% taking it.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
it's
of
not
course.
yeah, like it's not even a question. So it's like
Yeah.
I want him to show up. I want him to be healthy enough to where it's, it's going to be interesting. But if he's, I would just say if he's not like at like, if he's around like, the 1,000, 1,020, 1,030 mark, that's what he can manage. We have a battle, and that's going to be fun.
Even if Rondell can't make it, we the intrigue around Bob now. We
Yeah.
have to see where he's at.
See what he can do.
All of us
Yeah.
are, because this isn't worlds where you're just gonna try to win, or whatever. This is it's a local meet, a money meet. Bob is gonna push all his chips to the middle and just go all out. I'm super curious. Rondell or not. If Rondell's there, oh my God, because we all know what this means. But if
Yeah.
Rondell is not there, I'm still intrigued. I gotta see
Yeah.
where Bob's at.
That's the only silver lining if he doesn't show. And let me be clear, I'd much rather him show anyway. I'd rather us not push the total to the highest degree, but have the battle. But if he doesn't, then we get to just have our day. It's like, okay,
Right?
what do we want to put up? What do we think is there? We can just go for the most of what we think is there and not have to be worried about like, oh, we overreached and that's why Rondell won or whatever. Like we can just have our day. So I'm excited for it. I really, like I said, it's been a lot of just building. So, and that's the thing that you understand, even though for me, like I said, hey, I'm about whatever my clients want to do, that's what I want to do. So it hasn't been a stressful, anxious filled thing for me as far as like, oh, we haven't competed for a while. But on the flip side of that, as a coach, it's like you want to know that what you're doing in training can yield the results you want on the platform. So now we
Yeah.
finally get to test this out, all this long pace building, and be like, all right, let's do it. Let's see what's
Eventually,
there.
eventually you check in like, Bob, what are we doing? Are you a hobbyist now? You, you,
No,
you're still an athlete at this
no,
point.
that's what's always made it easy though. It's like Bob and I are very similar this way. We're both very long term thinking. Like that's why for me, I'm like, what's a year in powerlifting? I mean, for some people, they only do this for 2-3 years, and that's a long time. But for us, where I know Bob's going to do this until he can't, pretty much, it's like it'll be worth it. And that's our whole thing. It's like we got to make the time off worth it. So yeah, we got. I mean, if we leave with anything less than 1,000, we're both going to be pissed. It's not even a question. So, but
It's
I don't expect that to
amazing.
happen.
He would be, yeah, only Rondell is a 120 who's done 1,000 on the
Hmm.
tested side. I mean,
Hmm.
that's it. That's him and Rondell. And that's really the conversation you want.
Yeah.
Whether Rondell's there or not, fine, post up the biggest possible total and then say, I'll see you when I see you. And next
Hmm.
time you see me, where you saw me as drop, don't expect that.
Gonna be far past it.
Yesterday's price isn't today's price.
That's what's so exciting about it. And this isn't to take away from any of the other 120s, especially like young guys like Lonzo and stuff like that. Nothing but respect from strength. But it's the fact that Bob is this much of a threat. He's putting up this type of total, and he hasn't filled out the weight class.
Mm.
Like that's our biggest thing. We're doing it nice and steady. He's walking around like 110 right now. We're like, forget 120. What are we gonna be at when he's weighing 115? You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like it makes it very, very exciting because it's not a thing of like, okay, this is your threshold, and I have to manipulate all these variables to keep making weight. It's like, no, we can just keep elevating and boosting more and more. So it'll be good.
Now, you mentioned Ashton. Talking about, so just to give listeners a perspective, because I was curious myself walking in this podcast. I pulled some of your people because I knew we'd get some updates. And Ashton, I know we're all very high on Anthony McNaughton, as we should be.
Hmm.
Anthony McNaughton is a phenomenal talent, a breakthrough star of 2025, and he out totaled the 120s just like Bob did the year before. Phenomenal talent. But Anthony McNaughton's 105 total that we're all super high on is 975.5.
Hmm.
Ashton's weighing in at 105.8, just zero point 0.8 more, is 968. We're talking 7.5 kilos. Like,
Hmm.
I think people forget the talent that Ashton is, as high as we all are on Anthony and should be. Ashton, just zero point 0.8 kilos more, like he's basically at 105, is just 7.5 kilos off. So we forget sometimes, and we forget
Hmm.
how close that is. That is, people move up more than that in that weight class on a bench attempt. They are
Hmm.
right there in terms of percentage difference between the two of them. It's nothing. Like Ashton is right alongside him. And if people are wondering too, Bob as a 105, he was just over his best all at 106.2. So he's a kilo point two over the 105s. At 106.2 is 978.5. These
Hmm.
gentlemen right now Bob's bigger than that, and we're talking a G and over a G. But if you're thinking of, think to an extent in all of the hoopla around Bob versus Rondell, Anthony and what Anthony did, and all those gentlemen deserve it. But they're losing sight on what 100% Ashton can do and how close
Mhm,
100% Ashton really is.
mhm.
So, whereabouts do you think Ashton is in right now? What we can expect? What do you think?
So obviously, I think a big part of this was because Ashton, like his last USAPL meet, was like as a 110, right? Put up a huge total. Then we switched over, did just what we needed to do at nationals to win, and then at World, same thing, did just what we needed to do to win. Ashton was stronger for so much more, both at nationals and Worlds last year. But at that point, you're not playing to push; you're just doing it to win. So even though people are like, "Oh yeah, he won," they're not seeing the totals that they're expecting, and I think that kind of downplays it. Then, of course, Ashton had the pec tier going into Sheffield, which I'd tell Ashton to this day, that is one of the most impressive performances I think I've seen in powerlifting. Because to come in and do what he did with the pec tier, knowing that it not only impacted his bench, but his position on squat, deadlift, I was very proud of him for that. But once again, that's a lower total than what he's truly capable of. So I think that causes people to sleep a little bit more. But since then, taking the time to really get things healthy, get the pec recovered, and just pacing, because as you know, Ashton's lifestyle is the most non-conducive to powerlifting that he can get, especially with the military. I mean, just this past block on his week 3 for his week 4 had to do this crazy physical testing again, right? But because I've now decided that, okay, you know what? We're going to change our approach. We're going to pace things very differently. We're not going to push for certain numbers in training. We're just going to build and build that capacity and hit just enough this block to set us up for the next one and pace and pace and pace. I think we're going to be in for a nice showing at SBD Austin. I won't give out the exact numbers just because I haven't talked to Ashton about if he's cool with me talking about things public on that
Yeah.
standpoint. I always try to make sure I'm good with my clients, but um, the bench should absolutely not be a lot better than what it was at Sheffield, just because we're not dealing with the pack to the same degree. And the squat and daily should be in a very good spot. Ashton feels very strong right now. Like the way we pace things, the way we manage things to be better for his recovery life variables, he's in a very good spot. And what I can say is our goal is basically to be like, okay, with SBD Austin, let's see where we're at. And then from there, see how much ground we potentially need to cover by the time nationals comes around, right? And because I think Ash is the type of person where he's like, hey, I've done so much back to back. I can be patient. If I need a little bit more time to build to come back and take what I think is mine, cool. But if we're where we want to be by SBD Austin, then I think we're going to be in a really good spot to battle it out with Anthony come nationals. I really, really do, because he's feeling healthy. He's strong. The way we're pacing things is good. The big thing with Ashton is always having to change things. Like, as you know, powerlifting is all about consistency and momentum. When you
Mm.
find what works and you keep rinsing and repeating that, it's so good. But due to Ashton's lifestyle factors, recovery variables, we're always having to change things. But this time around, it's like, okay, we've been able to be really consistent with this format since Sheffield. And we think we can keep doing this format over and over. And I think that's going to be a game changer for him. So, what I'll say is, actually, no, like I said, out of respect, I won't say anything about numbers, but I think we can put up a performance that will surprise people and wake people up and remind people like that. This is Ashton Ruska we're talking about, bro. Like this isn't
Good.
some random and no disrespect, like this is like just some junior who's had like a couple of good training sessions. What I'm like, this is Ashton Ruska, time tested, battle tested, overcoming all these things, and he is one of the greatest lifters the sport's ever seen. And I think the plan is just to remind people of that.
Perfect. And how about Petrie pulled out? What
Yes.
how about Petrie? How's he doing? What's going on with Petrie?
Petrie's doing great. So our big thing since nationals has been really trying to focus on getting him just healthier as well, because it's a thing where it's like, okay, we're strong, we get to it, because everyone knows Petrie's got the deadlift for days, that's always improving. But when it came to things with the squat and the bench, we get to a certain threshold around like that 210 215 on the bench, around like that 320 mark on the squat, and every time we get that threshold, something pops up, something happens. So we've been working in the background. Okay, we need to really get this addressed. We need to get things healed up. We need to figure out what's causing this, what's causing that, and we spend a lot of time doing that. And now we are good. We've already mapped out, like from nationals, worked all the way backwards. Every block's mapped out and planned out. Now we're just going in and building it. He feels healthy. He feels strong. The reason why we pulled out of SB Austin is because originally the plan was to go in there and try to hit a 900 kg total, but with just variations. So high
Mm.
bar, conventional and close grip, because we were doing that for his off season anyway, just for the fun of it. But when we found out that nationals, instead of being like end of March, start of April, the start of March, we're like, okay, let's look at the landscape. You got Russ, you got Will, you got Keiko, you got Gavin, you got Demetrius, you got Dominique. It's like, does
Mm.
it make sense to even push to that type of threshold and then have to recover from that and turn right around and build? Or does it make sense to just let's just commit to the meat that matters and come back and be the strongest version of ourselves and go all out against these 93s? And we're like, it's a no brainer, which makes the most sense to do, right? Especially because, I mean, when you're literally a couple inches away from going back to Worlds like he was earlier this year, right? In the battle against Keiko, it's like, nah, if we lose, it cannot be because we did something that wasn't advantageous towards the day, right? And SBD Austin just wouldn't make sense at that point. So we're just focused on building. But his training's going very, very well. I can say right now, outright, he's the strongest he's ever been on bench right now, and that's huge. The strongest he's ever looked on squat. Like we're going from like, I mean, I don't know if you guys know, but we're going from like, oh, hitting 660 is around like the end of a training cycle where he just tripled it like it was nothing, right? So we're building and
Mm.
pacing well. We know who our threats are and we have to watch out for, but Petrie is doing very, very well.
See, I'm greedy. Does he need that much time before Nats?
Petrie, Petrie, yeah, Petrie's different. So it's like and that's the thing we've noticed with him. He's not great. It's kind of similar to Keiko. Like Keiko, we see what happens with quick turnarounds and stuff like that. And even though 8 weeks was an extreme turnaround in general, I mean, when Keiko took that year off, we saw what he came back with, right? The thing with
Mm.
Petrie is the fact that so with a lot of my clients, what we do to build their strength is similar to what we can do to express their strength, right? Keep their top end up. Petrie's different. What builds Petrie's strength is so different than what peaks him, to where it's like, okay, the more time I have to build that, the better that peak's going to be. Versus if we're trying to kind of push things constantly, it's just not going to give us like what we want, where we want to be, right? So that's what it comes down to. Like at the end of the day, like the comparison is like, okay, have a fun performance at this local meet, but then have to restart and build back up right into nationals in March, or just build all the way in the nationals and have a much bigger total. It's a no brainer.
I got lucky the year 2024, Lithuania. He was already peaked for Worlds, and I saw him at Worlds turn around within a week, hit silent worker, no rebuild on it. Like, I mean, like
Yeah,
literally a week, and
yeah.
like, let's rock and roll again. And he was still peaked, so we did good.
Exactly. Exactly.
We
Yeah.
got
Once he's
lucky there,
peaked,
though.
he can hold it for a little bit, but
Yeah,
once it drops off, it drops off. So yeah.
you got to start all over, and yeah.
Exactly.
It is.
Exactly.
Timing is everything, man. Time.
Yeah.
We got two out of them back to back. How about Waskar? Now Waskar was at Avansis and he
Mhm.
was a 66. And you're his
Mhm.
nutrition coach. And is he staying 66? Is he? What's the future for Waskar?
Yeah. So I'm actually his full time coach now too. We've been
Okay,
working.
okay. Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
congratulations. That's a hell of
Yeah.
an acquisition. He's a phenomenal. I love Waskar.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that was our first meet together. We're working together for a few months now. And yeah, the goal is 59. So basically, what we found with him, and I realized this when I was a nutrition coach when he was still under Steve, was they wanted to have him train lighter for longer and see how that would be for sustainability. And it's just not good for his health, right? Like in our first block together, he hit some really big PRs. Second block together, already starting to feel a little bit beat up and stuff like that. And that's part of why he had to pull out of Worlds, right? So it's like having all the years of nutrition wise, and just what I know programming wise, I'm like, you know what? No, I think it's beneficial. We let you just sit heavier. We know you can make these extreme cuts when you need to. You've got the background for with wrestling. There's different protocols we can do to make it. So let's just get you back heavier. So we did that, and we're kind of just building off season. And because of that, decided, you know what? This advances me. Just lets you kind of come back, get your confidence back, see where your strength can be at approximately. Gives us a little bit of data, for this first meet together as coach and client outside the nutrition, and we decided to do that just because we're already sitting heavier anyway. But now the goal is we're going to pace the workload, cut him back down, and do 59s. Because
Mm.
at one point he was considering like just going to 66 for the sake of longevity. But now the landscape's actually looking interesting. It's like, oh, I can't leave it like that. It's
Dude,
just too competitive. Like this is what Waspers wanted. His whole thing was, I want to put more eyes on this weight class. I want these battles. But there was just really nobody, right? And now there is. So it's like, okay, I got to give it at least one more year of a run and see how things go. So that's the plan, to cut back down.
59s has never been hotter. And globally,
Yeah.
there's a gentleman from Asia, I believe Indonesia. I forget his freaking name again. And then obviously Ivan from Spain. They're all over the place. And then Waskar, who there was a spread before, and before it was okay because the storyline was he's trying to get the Sheffield and the battle to get the Sheffield, the qualifying total. And when he hit it at Nats, it didn't qualify, but he knew it was possible. Teared up on the
Mhm.
platform, amazing. Hit it at Worlds because he had missed it the year before at Worlds on his last pull. Ends up getting it perfect. It was perfect, you know. But now it's not going to be continuously just getting the Sheffield. You needed something else. The rest of the class need to rise up. They did. They did, to your point. In Waskar, moving up, and some of it, like obviously you move up a weight class, you think your total will go up, but you never know how much. 30
Mhm.
kilos. He put 30 kilos on there. So it's not all for nothing. Waskar's body weight was up, but his kilos went up. So now it's you and Waskar working out. How do we retain this strength?
As we go
Lower the
down.
body
Yeah.
weight. And if you lose anything off the total, how much, but keep it as high as possible.
Mhm.
Because he's a stud. In 667.5, I mean, there's plenty in the tank. The guy's uber talented and freaking like I love Waskar. I love the way he carries himself. I love him on the podcast. I love when he's in the hunt, when he's got competition, when he didn't. And Feta was wherever Feta was. He got into like a competitive rivalry with a guy who may or may not ever get back to the IPF worlds, but they went back and forth. They
Mhm.
went back and forth on. I had Feta on the podcast, and he had to address Waskar because Waskar made it that you're going to have to address me when you come on. He
Mhm.
ratcheted up that heat of sports rivalry, which is it brought attention to the 59s. When's the last time people like there's a battle of the 59s, a showdown between these two, three guys, and I can't wait to watch it? Said nobody ever.
Yeah.
Wasker was like, we need that. I know what we need. Say less. First off, we need representation at Sheffield. Second off, I need some rivals.
Yeah.
And he was looking to Feddo. But now, whether Feddo's in his 40s and he was playing, he was giving it back, which is good to keep it going. But now the rest of the field is where it is. Waskar doesn't even necessarily need Feddo to come back. And
Yeah.
Waskar, when he's back, when Waskar's a 59 again and he makes a world team, uh, I can't wait to have him on King of List because
It's
now
gonna
he's
be
he's
great,
got
man.
we could do it.
And that's the thing. It's kind of like it would be it's like in large part, and there's lots of moving pieces, but in large parts, like bro, you are a part of the revival of the interest in this class. So it would be a shame that you don't get to participate in that thing, right? So yeah, I'm
Sure,
glad
sure.
that he decided like you know what, man. Because I remember he told me he's like, man, I think I need one last dance. I think I gotta let's do this one last time. I was like, oh, you already know I'm about it, man. Like absolutely, absolutely. Let's go in there and let's do it. So I'm excited. Plus, just as a coach, man, I mean, one of the things I like most about powerlifting coaching is I like that it's not, even though people are like, oh, you're doing the same thing over and over. No, there's always new challenges, new things to figure out, new
Mm.
things to work around. So the challenge of, okay, we put this much on your total by gaining this body weight. Like you said, how much of it can we maintain as we cut down? It's going to be fun. And I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see like what we tinker with and how it all works out.
You having both is going to be interesting because now you have both. So um, the timing of maintaining strength while cutting down will be a little easier that you got the steering wheel, so to speak, on
Mm-hmm.
both ends.
Mm-hmm.
Because that'll be the chore of it. It's actually nice to see that peak though. To see like 6 and 7.5, say less. I mean, we hang on to that. We know what's there and the horsepower, the strength is there. Let's see what we could do. So anyways, looking forward to that. How about Sean Noriega?
Yeah, so Sean's also going to SBD Austin as well. This training prep for Sean's been interesting because obviously going into nationals, we're on point, we're on fire, very, very strong. Then he, got married, went on his honeymoon. While he was on his honeymoon, actually had a quad injury he was dealing with.
Mm-mm.
So he, for a period of time, had to pull away from sumo, had to change the way we were squatting, had to pull conventional, do a bunch of stuff to get him healthy. And then once he got him healthy again, now it's been a matter of like, okay, trying to get back the pacing and the rhythm of everything. The squat has been on. Squat's been a really good spot. The deadlift is finally starting to like make its return the way we want. And now with this final block, we're hoping what we're doing with bench is going to get everything showing up the way we want. I know Sean's big goal with SBD Austin, really going to nationals, is to show that like, hey, I'm still that threat that I was. Like the threat that I was, like, when for the longest time I was like, oh, Russ and Sean, Russ and Sean. Sean doesn't like very much that's all like, oh, Joe and Taylor, Joe and Taylor. Sean wants to remind people like, hey, I'm right there. I'm right there in the mix, right? So that's going to be the goal for SBD Austin, assuming everything goes well, assuming that we stick with it. Because he's kind of in a similar situation to Petrie where it's like, okay, it's worth doing if I can put up the toll that I want and then turn around and build off that into nationals. But if I end up feeling like I need a little bit more time, then I get it because, he has the battle. But things are looking pretty sharp right now. We just got to see how things go in the next 3 weeks going into SBD Austin.
Some people could turn it around quick. Everyone's different. How
Yeah.
they build, to your point earlier, like Petrie needs a big build. Then you have other people who they can build quick. Some people can build real quick. As a matter of fact, so quick, you got to make sure you don't try to build them too far out because they'll peak too soon in the
Too
gym.
early.
Like it's
Yeah.
you got to know your people. So yeah,
Yeah.
for Sean, if he could pull it off, amazing. How about that young lady you had sent to me, Leanne Lee, 422.5 in the 47s. The 47s is another weight class that's freaking exploding. When's the next time we see her? And holy smokes, dude, you got one there.
Yeah, nationals. Yeah, Leanne, I've been working together for a few years as well. And before this meet, she was still in USAPL. She won USAPL nationals last year, did the pro series, everything like that. And then we did 4 meets last year, was it like 3 or 4 meets? So took the time to really just build even more. Came in and hit this total, and her next meet will be nationals. I mean, that's the goal. We want to win nationals. We want to win nationals and get that world spot. We definitely think it's doable because it's not just the total she put up with the 422.5, but it's the ease at which she put it up. Like you
Mm.
look at all three of those lifts, there's room there on everything. I think she probably would have been capable of around like all out 427.5, 430 on the day already. So that's the goal with Leanne. And Leanne's interesting because she has a very busy lifestyle between like medical school, being a nurse, a lot of family obligations, stuff like that. But her potential, like we've still yet to really see what she can do. I've yet to have a meet with her where I feel like we've truly hit any like RP9 lifts. Like that last meet was PRs and everything, and it's like okay, well we had 5 here, 2.5 here. So Leanne's in a really good spot as well.
Let's talk about the 47s for a sec while we're in here. Um, 47s are super interesting I mean, not that long ago, there was Heather Connor and then everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, Turbo Tiff won 4 world titles in a row. And for a
Mm-hmm.
stitch there, it looked like, okay, now what are we talking? She was so consistent. And there was Jessica Espinal, Heather Connor. They were around, but Tiff just kept winning year over year. And then Heather Connor comes back. And what happened in Germany in terms of the comeback victory. Now, Heather never fully went away, obviously, but to
Mm-hmm.
come back and win a title for the first time, 2025, and the last time she'd won a title was 2019.
Yeah.
Just insane to even
Huge
think about the
comeback.
gap. The gap between title wins in the Open is phenomenal. Like just when you think, all right, Heather, you're no longer the girl. You're not the queen, but you're in the conversation. You're going to be at Worlds or there and abouts. But you thought that's where she would be resting at until eventually you get pushed off the podium, until eventually you get pushed out of the top five. And Father Time is undefeated, as they say. In 2025, Heather reminded everybody, they say every great athlete has one more performance in their back pocket that just boom, she laid down such an ace card. Now, turn it around and Turbo Tiff, I seen her backstage, and Turbo Tiff had never lost a competition in her career from local to worlds to just dominance. Finally took an L. And we had a conversation backstage where, the old, like, this will make you better. You'll level up. It's all right. You'll be fine. And Turbo Tiff turns around and at World Games weighing in at 47.1. So right there, but
Mm-hmm.
purposely point 0.1 because of Sheffield, obviously. But point 0.1, she did 450, which is like insane for 47, my man. It's
Yeah.
insane for 47. Not long ago, 408 was the world record, and the Olympic gold medalist at the Olympics was the also world record holder. Like this was like people like, wow, when the A-level athletes finally into powerlifting. No, we need an Olympic gold medalist who held that.
Mm-hmm.
And Turbo Tiff is so far beyond that. And now I don't know, and I'm interested in your opinion. First level of this question, I have 2 levels to it.
Mhm.
Who, in your mind's eye, with Turbo Tiff winning 4 world titles, 3 or 4 of them as a junior, feels like she's a junior forever, by the way, and then doing what she did at World Games 450, World Games, no less, 450. Is she the GOAT 47 or Heather Connor, who was winning titles pre-lockdown, carried the 47 kilo class, was gone but a perennial contender, coming back after all those years and defeating Turbo Tiff head to head, who was the reigning GOAT? Did she do enough to recapture that status? Or are you of the mind it's 250-50 dead even? They got to clash one more time at Sheffield, and that will really split it. Or do you, or is there somebody to lose? Essentially, is what I'm asking.
Yeah. No, that would be my mentality. I think Sheffield determines it because it's the context. I'm always big on context, Ryan, and it's so different because it's like, okay, when Heather was winning, right? There was such a big spread, right? Whereas you compare that now to Tiff winning, and there are people that are totaling 420, 430, and she's still winning. She's still coming out on top. And even though Heather came and beat her, right? Here's a perfect example. Here's how I look at it, right? It's like Jurens and Russ, right? I think because of the amount of times that he's won and everything that he's done, I feel like most people would still say that Russ is currently the GOAT 83. Joseph Bornstein is the strongest, and I think he's making his run to become the new GOAT 83, right? But I'm not even talking about Joe right now. When Jurens beat Russ, I don't think that suddenly makes Jurens the GOAT 83. That was one of the most amazing battles ever. I mean, you and I talk all the time, like just the energy was crazy. But I don't think that one win can suddenly make Jurens the GOAT, right? Even though you beat the GOAT, it takes more than that to be the GOAT, right? So I would say for that same reason that even though Heather did come back and beat Tiff that one time, I don't think that suddenly means that we can say she's the GOAT. If I had to lean towards one more than the other right now, it really is tough because it's like you can say like, well, in a lot of ways, Heather's paved the way for a lot of these other 47. But if I had to lean one way, be biased towards one, I say I'd probably still give it to Tiff purely because of the back-to-back wins and the higher total. But the reason why I say I need to see what happens at Sheffield is because if from what I understand and what I think I know about Heather, right? Like I don't know her super, super well, but I feel like she's going to be trying to go for that 450 mark as well. And I feel like Sheffield will be what kind of lets us know because it's like, all right, you're going head to head again. Um, yeah, I think yeah, I think Sheffield. I think Sheffield's a thing where it's like if Heather can show up to Sheffield, right, and she can put up around like that 450 mark, I think you have to give it to her at that point. I think then you can. But until then, it's like it's pretty neck and neck, and I might bias a little bit more towards Tiff until she comes in and does that. Because I don't think one win can be the make or break. Yeah, it has to be a little bit of
I
consistency.
I'm going to agree with you. Here's what I'll add. So the Germans comparison's good. Only Heather had won at least a couple of world titles before. I got to double
Beforehand.
check my facts here. So
Yeah.
she had before an era. However, um, but I know what you mean with the Germans thing, where like not one win, like over
Yeah.
the goat means you're the
Over
goat.
the go. Yeah. Yeah.
On the flip side, Heather fans would say she was winning before and was the GOAT before even that win. On the flip, but you made some good points that like I 100% agree that the 47 kilo class that Turbo Tiff reigned over was definitely tougher than the 47 kilo class that Heather reigned over. The
Mm-hmm.
maturity of that weight class cannot be compared from
Mm-hmm.
pre-COVID shutdown to afterwards. They cannot be compared. To your point, I mean, you look at the 47 kilo class now. Look at America with is Lee her nickname? Leanne Lee? Is that
Yeah,
yeah?
Leanne Lee. Yeah, Leanne. Yeah.
Lee to Jessica Espinal to
Mm-hmm.
like Heather is just US, let alone, you had Turbo Tiff, etc., coming out of France. So the 47 kilo class that Turbo had to reign over was much, much more difficult. So, and
Mm-hmm.
four in a row. And here's the kicker for me. Um, Heather came back and took it in Germany, and which is like an amazing sports story. And literally her placement in history, I mean, it's crazy to be separated by 6 years between world title wins in a sport where 4 years and you're probably out of here at the top. Like
Mm-hmm.
we turn over so quickly. Everything gets so much tougher every single year. 4 years is an entire top career, let alone 6 years in between world title wins is insane. She's got her placement in history for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But what kicks it for me is after Turbo Tiff took the L, turned around, dropped 450 at World Games. All right.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
450, to your point about the 450, what are we doing here? That's crazy. That like if she
Yeah.
didn't do that, and someone's like, yeah, but think about the significance of what Heather pulled off and bridging
Yeah.
one era to another era, being that bridge and blah blah blah. You could talk me a romanticized view of that sports comeback. I love. I'd
Yeah.
still probably lean Turbo Tiff a little because of the 4 in a row dominance, but that 450 at World Games,
Yeah. It's hard.
literally,
It's hard to talk against that, right?
yeah.
It's kind of like he hasn't had as many wins yet, so I don't think they're going to say it yet. But I think if Bornstein keeps winning, right, I think eventually they're going to say, okay, he's now the GOAT because he's got the same, like, say, oh, you won just as much as Russell did, but the landscape in which you're winning is far more competitive, and your absolute top end is just higher. Like, you just hit
Right.
904 at advances, right? I think though when you look at everything collectively and you kind of take your personal bias out, it's like, okay, if you got just as many wins or more world wins, if you're beating people that are way more competitive than the other person was beating, and if your top end's higher, it's kind of hard for me. Like, well, how is that person not the GOAT over this other person, right? And of course, it's all about what you value. But to your point though, like when it comes to like Heather and even Germans, or should I even throw Jamar in this? When it's like there is just something about people that are just in it and they stick with it, and even when they're not getting first, or they're getting second, they're getting out the podium, whatever, they just stay with it and they come back and just have these moments, man. Because like Jordan's had a moment, Heather winning worlds was a moment. Jamar bringing it full circle and going from being the first 83 to squat 7 and the first 93 to now squat 8. It's just these peak moments, right? Where it's like, and I can't remember who you were talking about it with, but it's something where you guys basically say, like, if you're the first to do something, no one can ever take that away, right? Like in Jamar's
Mhm.
case, like, hey, you were the first to do this as 83, the first was 93. It's like, even though the goal is, of course, like, hey, I want to get that world singlet, I want to go make it official internationally. There's just certain moments that you know, that are peak moments of powerlifting, but those moments in themselves can't make someone the GOAT, right? It's got to be a collection of all these different things.
So funny you mentioned Jamar. I want to talk about Jamar as well. I'll just leave at that with the 47s. However, I do think the race for GOAT or who is the GOAT in the 47s, while I think we're on the same page leaning towards Turbo Tiff, it's close enough that if
Yeah.
Heather comes back, beats her again,
Yeah.
back to back facings at Sheffield, then you start being like, all right, shit. Especially if she beats her, even if not 450, but like in the 440s or whatever,
Absolutely.
knocking on
Absolutely.
450's door, then it's like, even if she doesn't hit 450, she's knocking on 450's door in the 440s, beat her head up again at Sheffield.
Then I think
Now
you
we're
can
like,
say
all
it.
right.
Yeah.
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 All right. Wow.
Yeah.
Like
And that's
it's
why
close enough.
it's not solidified. Like if my true answer is that Sheffield will let us know. But if it was like gun to your head, Marcellus, you have to pick someone right now, I'm gonna lean towards Tiff. But if Sheffield goes down and Heather wins, whether it's with 450, 440, then I think it's like, okay. Because then at that point, two of our points go away. Because one, it's like, okay, if she hits the 450, the total point goes away from Heather, right? But then two, if she beats her again, that means, hey, that we were giving Tiff points because of the landscape. Well, Heather came back and won twice in that landscape over the person that you would say is the GOAT. I think that makes her the GOAT at that point then. Yeah.
And that's what makes a showdown in Sheffield special. How many showdowns do you have where you legitimately can say this will determine the greatest athlete in that weight class ever?
Yeah.
And people throw around the term GOAT all the time. Legitimately, how many
Mm-hmm.
times can you say the winner of this is the GOAT for that weight class? Period.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not very
Yeah.
often. This is, I don't think anybody, there's no one else you can interject in that conversation for the 47 kilo class. And the winner probably, like, if Tiff wins, forget, okay, that's it. Or if Heather wins, it's like, all right, well, what are we doing here? Yeah, like
Yeah.
she came back. She's winning back to back now against
Yeah.
Tiff, for God's sake. So,
Yeah.
anyways, very excited for that. Yeah, let's talk about Jamar. It's crazy. He was the first 83 to squat 700.
Mm-hmm.
He's the first 93 to squat 800. And then I posted on King of Lifts and asked, like, what can my man do as a 105? And someone entered in the comments, well, it would appear by pattern it would be 900, but if he keeps going up a weight class. But people were saying how it was Jamar and Russ actually combatively in the stories talking about
Yeah.
like getting onto the US singlet. But there actually is two pathways for US singlet. There's North Americans and worlds.
Mhm.
My man, we have to see Jamar. Well, you're right. He already made 800. He's the first to do 800, regardless if it's at the Worlds or not, or an
Mhm.
international or not. He's the first. And we will now. I still remember him doing 700, being the first. I remember the
Mhm.
whole story about him missing a second, having to literally tighten his belt, figuratively and literally tighten his belt a little, come back out and hit it on the third. I remember being like, oh my God, he's not going to, how is this happening? And he hits 800, and then he's doing what he's doing as a
Yeah.
93.
I
But
think you
there's
got the same thing. I think the same was just like so hard where it's like, oh, there's no way he's gonna go up and get the third, but he did. Yeah. Yeah.
Did he do? I still remember
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. That was
I
hype.
still remember it. But we got to get Jamar on a freaking USA singlet and make this a world record. We got to figure out a way. And in Europe, they have worlds, they have Europeans, they got Arnold UK, they got and even like Ade did it did it at Westerns. I don't know if now Western Euros, Eastern Euros is still going to or isn't going to or what's going to happen. Either way, America needs an invitational money meet like an Arnold that has world records available, and or NAPF has to start sanctioning some of these money meets for international records because we got to find a way for Jamar to solidify a squat world record. It would be a shame if that young man did not have the opportunity for a squat world record and not
Yeah.
just at Worlds.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's one of those things where I know as of right now, his plan isn't to do nationals because he wants just. I mean, Jamar's to the point where he's like, all right, cool, having squad records cool, and podiums cool. Like, no, but I want to win, and I want to have the time to build to win. But we'll see what he decides to do ultimately. Because, like you said, hey, but if you do nationals, if you don't win, but then you get an invite to an APF, then that's another
Yeah,
avenue. So I think it'll really just come down to what he wants to do and what he values. But my hope would be that if not this upcoming year, if he doesn't do nationals, by 2027, in some way, some form, some capacity, there is that opportunity to do it. I mean, because like you said, it's just a shame if not, right? Like I'm never gonna be one of these people like, oh, it's such a waste if not, because like no, he's still doing what he's doing. But yeah, to solidify that officially on like an international level stage would be huge. And I mean, it's what he's doing is historic, man. Like I said, as of right now, no one's doing that. Like I mean, he is the best pound for pound squatter like in the world, like period, point blank period. So to solidify that internationally would be huge.
and there's a possibility if he does Nats of North America at North Americans, they might send 293s. They might send
Yeah,
there is doorways there for him. Worlds, possibly two at NAPFs in the 93s. And even if there is Arnold UK, there's no reason why an American can't be invited or go to reach out and say, hey, can I come over for Arnold? There's
yeah,
other meets that are international you can go and potentially break that world record. So while I 100% can appreciate the fact that he's like, I'd like to be number one overall, like total wise is my overall goal. Gotcha. But a world record to your resume is pretty damn cool. Being the first is he's already done a lot of cool things. Like you
yeah.
said, there's no waste going on. That was we all seen 800. We all know it's phenomenal, but I do think he deserves that opportunity. So we'll see. And he just did it, so let him
Let
appreciate it,
him let
sit
him let him
back. But
chill, let him sit back and
yeah,
decide what's best. Plus, him also being a family man, having a daughter, having a lot of responsibilities. There's a lot of different things to account for and juggle and stuff like that, which I definitely of all people can understand and respect. So
I do agree as well. He should be in the conversation for pound, one of the greatest squatters alive, period. And I think solidifying it as a world record would help do that internationally. I think
yeah.
as soon as you end up on that IPF world record page, everything changes. And even historically speaking, I think that's why freaking we'll figure it out. Something will happen.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. But I think I'm more worried. What about the 93s? Talking about the 93s, what a freaking flipped up on its ears type of situation. I'm interested in your opinion on this. Okay. So we have a reigning world champion
Mm,
We have a world record holder, reigning world champion in a mill. Russ turns around, breaks the world record, but then Will Ball comes around and takes the unofficial world record to 920. All of them like relatively close in kilos. Tycho did just like half a kilo less at US Snats. But so we've it's while we have a reigning world champion, I am always going to lean on the reigning world champ because you battled at the highest end, right?
mhm,
But who, in your opinion, with all of these gentlemen, a world champ, a world record holder, a number one placement, pole position lifter, if you will, number one ranked, if you will, over the year, all being different people. It's not often in a weight class is those titles and accomplishments all by different people.
mhm,
Usually you have the guy, the girl,
mhm,
and they're the world champ has the biggest total, has the unofficial biggest is yada yada the dominance. In a 93 is so difficult and competitive. It's so unique that all three of those are different people. And if you flip a coin, my friend, if they were to battle today, you flip a coin. I don't know who's going to win every single time out. Throw in Kaiku is just half a kilo off of Will Ball. Like they're all right there.
mhm.
Who, in your opinion, is the biggest? I don't know how to word it here. The biggest threat level, the number 193, in your opinion, that you think if they battle it all right now is
Okay.
going to come out on top?
Okay, got it. So now you're not asking me who I think the GOAT is, just who is the biggest threat. So
That's right. Not GOAT.
I'll frame it this way: like me coaching Petrie, if we're going in, who do I look at as like this
That's
is
right.
the number one guy we got to watch out for?
Yeah.
Okay, got you, got
I,
you.
I, I
So
want to word it threat level so you don't have to go like
right,
you're going to
right,
go with your guy. So, and I appreciate that.
of
Who's
course,
the
yeah,
biggest threat to Petrie? And you're like, this is
yeah.
it, Petrie. This is the guy.
Yeah. So me and Peter have talked about this. I've talked about this with a couple friends. So here's how I look at it. Everybody looks at things different, right? Some people look like, oh, this guy's consistent. This guy has more experience. This guy's knows 9 for 9. I keep it relatively simple. I look at it from the standpoint of with where everybody is at now, between now and nationals, who do I believe, if they go 9 for 9, has the highest top end, right? So for that reason, I'm putting Will as the number one threat. The reason being is that for the longest time, I feel like Will's issues were less strength and more so execution. That's why we see this huge increase on his total, right? The man basically skipped over the 800s
Crazy.
and went to the
It's insane.
900s. A lot of it's been execution stuff. But even though he's young, I think he's had enough experiences and has had enough of those setbacks executions where he's more consistent now, both in training and on the platform. And granted, it was a local meet. I get it. But his lift execution was clean. So even though I can be like, oh, hey, he might miss a lift or he might have an issue, I don't go in planning for my lifter, my guys' opponents to make mistakes. I'm going in thinking if he goes 9 for 9 and where his strength is at now, where I predict it to be by then, who do I think is gonna be the biggest threat? I have to give it to Will for the mere point that right now he is the absolute strongest, but also he's the youngest. And I feel like his rate of progression is probably just going to be faster relatively compared to say like Russ or Keiko, right? Now, right behind him, and I could see someone making the argument or would have to be Keiko. The reason being is that he is battle tested. He very rarely misses. That's why he's Mr. Perfect, right? Mr. 9 for 9, right? And his total was right there next to Will's. The only thing is, even though I know like how much he was able to put on when he had that year off, he doesn't have the same amount of time off this time, right? And I also feel like when it comes to just training age and life stresses and stuff like that, and the fact that like Keiko, tending to I think train a little bit heavier and the cut down, whereas Will is still right around the weight. I feel like Will just has more freedom to increase at a faster rate and probably stay healthy. So I'm gonna put them. I'm gonna put it as them right there, right? And it's not to say that the others. I mean, bro, let's look at this. Like, I don't know if you saw, like at the advances meet, Demetrius almost beat what Will did. He was one pull away from it, right? And if he
Mm,
and here's the thing, he was right there on his third bench. Had he locked at his third bench and had to pull a little bit less, he would have been right there, right? So
it's
there's
crazy.
lots of ways you can look at it. But if I'm looking at what's actually officially been done total wise on the platform, potential top end strength, I have to put probably Will as the number one threat, and I put Keiko right behind him. That's how I'm kind of viewing it. And anything can happen, right? We know Russ is a baller, experience. Yeah, he's only done like one official 93 meet, but we saw what he did just with that little bit of time. He's only going to progress and get better. Gavin is always Gavin. you and I both know what that means. So it's like,
Yeah.
but if I have to look at it just as simplistically and objectively as possible, I'm gonna look at it that way. And I could easily switch the two, right? But the fact is, right now, Will is a little bit stronger. Will is strong on paper. And I look at their training numbers too. The fact that Will put that total up with a squat and bench that were below what he did in training and just a bigger deadlift. So I think Will has to be the number one threat from perspective of if everybody, because that's how I look at it. I don't like, obviously, if you're going like, oh, who do you think's going to like miss? Yeah, I think Keiko's a little bit more efficient. But if they all go 9 for 9, who's the total that I have to beat? I think it's Will's.
And then you have internationally like Emil and Gustav. And Gustav, it's been a little up down, but
Mm-hmm.
Gustav last year won Sheffield in the World Championships. Talk about a freaking back for back. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's insane back to back meets to collect. Talk about a big game hunter. If Gustav rights the ship and gets right back, and then like he's easily in a mill, those guys are easily 920 and up themselves. Like it's
Yeah.
um it's
And
who the
and
frick
that's the
knows?
thing.
It's
It's like
crazy.
when people ask me about it, I'm like, bro, I don't even think about international yet because we can throw Emil and Gustav into it, but it's like, dog, you're not even allowed to think about them until you get through nationals. It's like not if you're at
Yeah, it's
93,
full
bro.
hearted.
You're
Yeah,
not even
yeah, yeah.
allowed to be like when people are like, oh, who thinks a bigger threat, Gustav or Emil? I'm like, bro, it doesn't matter. I need to focus on the people here in the U.S. first before I can even think about which of them is going to be the bigger threat at Worlds because you have to get past this gauntlet first. So yeah, and that's also why I was clarifying if you're asking like who I think's the bigger threat or who I think is the GOAT, because people have asked me that too. They're like, oh man, now that Will's in this, I still think Keiko's the GOAT 93. I feel like he objectively has to be because of the experience, the titles, battle tested, but also because, in my opinion, right, what Will did was awesome, but he did it at a local meet, really no competition. What Russ did was cool, but once again, did an NAPF, no real competition. Keiko did what he did in what is to date, probably until this next nationals, the most competitive 93 battle that we have ever seen in terms of all the lifters that were able to potentially hit 900. The fact the podium was all 900 kg lifters, and the fact that he still and they had that he had to come in, go 9 for 9 and PR every lift to do that and beat what was
Mm.
the strongest version we saw of Gavin, of Petrie, of Dominique. To do that, I still think as of right now, Keiko still has to be the GO 93. I think that can look very different next year, but that's who I would still say is the GO. I think Will's the bigger threat right now, but as far as like who is the GO 93, I still think it's Keiko.
Oh, no question. All time career wise, Will is just getting started and can't even be in on the conversation. And I agree with you, it's Keiko. Dating back, people forget there was a COVID year lockdowns. Keiko was the number one 93 at that time. He could have had two
Yeah.
world titles, like night 2020, 2021, and then obviously 2022. What happened? Came back, won 2023, and freaking all the battles he's done at US Nationals, which is phenomenal, super thick, super deep. Like it's yeah, Keiko for sure. It's Keiko, but it's in a few years' time something could change. But yeah, I 100% agree with you there. Who do you think in 2025 thus far was the biggest breakthrough star for you?
Mm, that's tough. It's probably gotta be. It's gotta be between Anthony and Will, I would say,
Oh,
because
hang on though. Keep in mind, entering 2025,
mhm,
like Joe B was not Joe B. He didn't
that's
win a
true.
national
That's
title.
true.
He
That's
didn't win a
true.
world title. He
That's
didn't do
true.
900.
That's true. I guess, see, here's the thing. I guess for me, the reason why I don't see it as breakout necessarily is because keep in mind, I'm coming from like the American perspective when we're in USAPL. Like Joe, when he put up 800 and USAPL was 74, that was only outshined because what Austin did with like the
Mm-hmm,
851 or whatever, right? So there's
mm-hmm.
that. There's what he did at the Arnold. So as far as breakout, that is tough. Yeah, that's a good point though.
And
That's good.
he did
That's a
it.
good
So
point.
if you were to tell me, I'll go either way with you. But
Yeah.
if you were to tell me, look at in 2024 he did 865. I think that was his breakthrough year. So I'll leave
Yeah.
it there. However,
Yeah.
if you were also to so you're like I don't consider that, or if you were to tell me, you know what, 865 is good, and he was already the number 183 in 2024. So if you were like I
Yeah.
can't consider a breakthrough, I'd be fine with that. However, if you were to tell me, my friend, winning the battle of the 83s against Taylor, being the first 83 to cross 900, and then actually
Yeah.
winning the world title, being like 865 was potential at a local meet, but was not. It was a local money beat, but was not. What he did in 2025
Yeah.
actually made you aren't a star. Like
Yeah.
Will Ball right now is not a star
And
until
that,
like
and that,
Will
until he
Ball
does
next
it.
year wins
Yeah.
Nats and Worlds. But I can
Yeah.
go either way. If you
I,
wanted to
I,
tell me it's Will Ball,
it
I don't
depends
know.
on how you're defining breakout. If we're defining breakout where
Right.
it's like you weren't really known, there weren't really eyes on you, and now there are, then I would have to say, in my mind, Joe's breakout year was 2024. Because when he had that
Agreed.
865, everyone was like,
Yep.
oh man, you know what I'm saying? So that's how I look at it. But if we're going based upon, okay, you had to do it at least a national level or under the IPF umbrella, whatever, then if we're going based off that, right, then yeah, I got to give it to Joe this year too, just because not only because of the Battle of the 83s, not only being like someone as prestigious as Taylor, not only hitting the 900s, but then following that up, going to Worlds, beating Jurgens, being Ade, and then a few months later coming in and increasing that total further with 904. It's like
Yeah.
so if we're looking at it from that perspective, I still have to give it to Joe. If we're looking at it from okay, we say Joe was 2024 doesn't count for 2025, then I have to look at it between Anthony and Will, in which case I'm probably giving it to Anthony because
Yeah.
of the fact of doing what he did at Nationals, right? And then what he did at Worlds, basically doing what Bob did the previous year, like literally out totaling them and officially doing it. Because even though Bob pretty much weighed 105, he still competed the 120s last year, right? Anthony officially did it as a 105. And I think by comparison, and once again, I'm talking more as American. Like, there's been talk about Will here and there and what he could be capable of. He just executed. Now he finally did it. I think people have been sleeping on Anthony for a very long time, though, until specifically this year. Like, I think a lot of people are like, "Yo, who is this dude? This came out of nowhere." You know what I mean? So I think if I don't count Joe for this year, I have to give it to Anthony. If we do count Joe for this year, then I have to give it to Joe.
Yeah. Um, I think that I think I 100% agree with you. I think if it becomes if someone wanted to say like really Joe broke through in last year, today he solidified him or this year, sorry, he solidified himself as the number one. If you wanted to tell me last year he wasn't the number 183 until he proved it at international stage, straight battles, but he broke through and got out on everyone's radar. And usually, you
Mm-hmm.
know, as I work through this in my mind's eye, the breakthrough star, maybe that's all it is. Maybe it's just did you break like what Will just did, Will Ball just did. That's phenomenal. You're on everyone's radar, but you're not number one until we see you battle.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, do that with like Tycho, Petrie, and Russ in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
Gavin, let me see what happens then. You do it then, done, done. You're the number one. But your breakthrough moment that everyone's like, who the hell that guy came out of what was in 2025. So you know
Yeah.
what? Now that we're working it through, and in terms of Anthony McNaughton, he just happened to have done both in the same year. Because
Yeah.
previous, we knew he had potential, but he didn't uncork it like he just did.
Yeah.
Even if we were like, look, people knew when he gets it all together, that's fine. But it isn't done until it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Like how many times in powerlifting, I'm the worst offender for being hyperbolic, talking about what somebody's going to do, and people like, dude, you got to calm down. But it's not done until it's done. And what Anthony did, both winning at US Nats, turning around and doing what he did at Worlds, and out totaling the 120s, and the spread in body weight between 105 and 120, my friend, that's 15. That's the biggest spread we have in any weight class. So to outlift a weight class up, phenomenal. And in that respect, even though Will Ball did was is great, he out totaled Keiko by 0.5 to take the lead.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Anthony, like talk about a coming moment of a coming of age moment in his career. Um, and it just happened to align with nationals world titles. Like he's indiscriminately the number one right now. So,
Yeah.
anyways, I'll agree with you there. I think well said. I think it might be Anthony McNaughton if I got to think about it. And
Yeah.
do you have in your mind's eye um women and men's lifter of the year?
Mm.
That's a tough one. And
That's
then
tougher. Yeah. For the year,
that's a
that's
lot tougher.
tough.
It's a lot
That's
tougher
tough.
because
That's
this
tough.
look off the top of your head. If you haven't thought about it, you have to like you. It might be difficult because you gotta go class by weight class and really start measuring this.
Yeah. For men, I'd have to definitely sit and think about it. My default thought for women would be Agata, but I probably have to think. Actually, I probably don't have to think about that one too much, just because we have with winning Sheffield again, right? So we've
Mhm.
got that. Winning worlds and pretty much pretty much winning the weight class a weight class down, right? In terms of the total. And then correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't her total like the equivalent of what the 76s did or something
Yes,
like,
the
right?
exact
It
same.
was the exact same thing.
Only, and she weighed in, by the way, 63 and change.
Yeah. Yeah. So right there. So it's like I feel like I mean it's almost a little bit unfair. I feel like it's hard for on the women's side to be honest, when you just look at what all August has done, even just this year alone. I think that's kind of hard to beat. But on the men's side, I'd really have to sit down and think about it because a lot of stuff has happened, a lot of stuff has gone down. But I might have to, if I had to say right now, even though I haven't thought all the way through, I'd probably have to lean towards Joey B for that as well, if I'm thinking about it. So I'm thinking about everyone who won nationals, everybody who went to worlds, and what they did. Well, no, that's tough still because Austin. It's always man. I'd have to think about that one. I'd have to think about it
That
because
I'm agrees with you about this. I really
yeah,
gotta.
yeah,
I don't have the answer either, by the way.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. That's tough.
let me say this. Let me say this about the women's real quick. What I will say is Carlina Tongatea at Sheffield came in second,
Mm,
won the world title, and then
mm.
also won World Games.
She did
And
win World
so,
Game. That's true. That's true.
but on the flip side, Agatha didn't come in second at Sheffield. She won Sheffield, and that is literally Sheffield is a battle of champions, a battle of the best versus the best. And
Yeah.
then she not only won worlds, but won best lifter, and not only won best lifter, but as a 63 and change, out totaled all the 69s and also equaled
The
Carlina's total
76.
while being
Yeah.
damn near three. So then when you're going to compare the two ladies, which we are,
Yeah.
if I were to tell you, yeah, but at the World Championships, Agatha literally had the same total as Carlina, weighing 63 and change, and Carlina was a 76. Then it becomes difficult.
It's hard to top
And
that.
if I tell you the two biggest competitions on the tested side is Sheffield and Worlds, and Agatha won both of those and was best lifter at Worlds. Like I think Carlina had a phenomenal year, but how the heck do you then turn around and tell me that Carlina bumps her? But if I just for sure, Carlina deserves a mention that like because she's got World
Yeah,
Games and
absolutely.
Agatha did not do World Games,
Yeah.
so
I think it's kind
that
of like
helps.
if August is not there, I think Helena gets it by default. Like
Yes,
like honestly, I don't think anyone comes close. And I'm biased. I'm a big Helena fan in general, but I feel like I mean I'm a big fan of Agatha as well. But I feel like that's just what makes it tough is that. And then people always have the what is like, oh well, Agatha didn't go to World Games. What if she would have? Blah blah blah. But you know, should have, could have, would have doesn't really matter to me. It's more about what was done, and I think comparing what was done, it's kind of hard to take. It's kind of hard to take that from Agata just because of in totality what was done and how it was done. It's not just that she won worlds; it's how she won worlds. It's the total that she hit, right? So,
best lifter
yeah,
as well. That matters. Like whether you want to use the formula based off of Sheffield against every world champion who is moving the ball further down the field, historically speaking, it was Agatha, and she won Sheffield head to head with every other woman there.
mm-hmm.
And then at Worlds, yes, Carlina won a world title. Agatha won best lifter and a
Mm-hmm.
world title. And best lifter at Worlds is perk. It's Agatha. Usually means you're the pound for pound best. And not only did she was 63 and change, and she
Yeah,
was this close to being a 63 kilo lifter, and she tied Carlina. It's
yeah,
insane.
yeah,
It literally is insane. She,
yeah,
you know, and then so if she didn't go to World Games, that's still I can't think of anyone replicating this. If you, who could replicate that? Who? How long will we wait for someone to win Sheffield, turn around at World Championships, be a 63 and change, and have the same total as a 76? She would have won 63, 69, and 76.
yeah,
It's insane. How long will we wait for that feat to be replicated?
yeah. And the potential
It-
is just crazy. I mean, because we're talking about what's done, but even the potential for some people, they do all that stuff, and it's like, okay, they did all that. All right, I'm done. But we know Agata's not slowing down, so it's like
no, no, no.
there's just so much to it. And I think what makes it harder on the men's side is it's not as clear cut as that, right? No one's like pushed themselves that far away. I do think for the year it would come down between Austin and Joey B. And if we look at it, it's like okay, because obviously Joey wasn't at Sheffield. Austin didn't win Sheffield, but if we look at Worlds, okay, they both won. They both won Worlds. Um, Austin did get best lifter. They did have their head to head on GLP at Advances, and Austin won that and had lots of room on everything too. But Austin didn't do nationals. He didn't have to do nationals. Joey did do nationals, and he beat Taylor Atwood. So there's different things you could look at in regards to that and kind of what you value overall. And then the fact of like, hey, Joe is totaling what a lot of 93s are totaling, you know what I mean? So there's stuff like that. But then you can now make the argument, yeah, but Austin's totaling what some 83s are totaling. He's not surpassed the number one. So
Dude,
it's tough. It's tough. It's tough. Yeah, it's tough. I'd have to
here's
think
another
about
thing
that
that
one
helped the
more.
women's. Agata's biggest total in 2025 is bigger than Carlina's biggest total in 2025. Those things are shifted to Agata for me. It's just like I
Yeah,
can't wrap my head around what she's doing. But
yeah,
Carlina had a phenomenal year. But
yeah.
anyways, like I think it's between those two young ladies off the top of my melon. But I haven't investigated everybody world when I do the world recap, like the year recap. I'll
Then
investigate
you'll
every
be
single one.
you'll
But
be able
to
to
your
really
point,
decide.
trying to mull over the men's is difficult because
Yeah,
Joe also broke new territory, being the first to take the 83s into the
the 900s.
900s.
Yeah,
And Perk is phenomenal. I mean, we've never seen 74 like him. He hasn't quite done that stitch yet, though.
yeah,
This year, like, but he also won best lifter. He's so far ahead. He's a generational lifter, like lifter of the year. Frick, I don't know, man.
yeah. And it's also like, well, what would he have to do? Almost like Joe getting in the 900s for the 83. What is even the equivalent of that for a 74? Because he's already in the 850s. So it's like, does that not, you know what I'm saying? Does
He
that not
Perk did,
equate?
yeah, maybe
Because
he
because
did.
because
Yeah,
if we
yeah,
say
yeah.
like, well, Austin also has hit 900, it's like, okay, but now he's hitting what Joe did a weight class down. Like, so it's like
Yeah.
that's not the equivalent. That would be better at that point.
Yeah, 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 that's right.
If Austin hits 900, he's objectively better at that point. In my mind,
Yeah.
right? If he does so,
Oh, 100%.
that's why it's hard to. It's a big back and forth between the two in regards to that, and I think a lot of it just depends because people say things like, "Oh, but Joe has actual competition," so like that. I'm like, yeah, but that's not Austin's fault. like that's not Austin's fault if everyone else isn't necessarily near him, right? Um, so yeah, that's one I'd have to think about more, and I think some of it's going to come down to what you value. There's always some subjectiveness when it comes to this type of stuff, but I guess if we're looking at the fact that they did go head to head at the advances meet for GLP, and they both increased the totals, and Austin won that. Austin got best lifter. It's tough though. It's still tough because I do think that's why I'm excited for 2027 when everybody has to do nationals again. I think I'll be more excited for that because you can make more direct comparisons because it's also hard when it's like, okay, Austin was actually at Sheffield, didn't have his performance, but he was there, but Joe wasn't even at Sheffield. Joe showed out at Nationals, but Austin wasn't at Nationals. So,
Mm. Um, how about this? When you're looking at like amongst these lifters we're seeing today, you see some trends. We're talking about trends just in like powerlifting, bodybuilding, etc., some theories and whatnot. But for a little while there, we had people like, for instance, Shell move down.
mhm.
Shell won Sheffield, won 66 kilo world title. Obviously, Evie moved down and Agata moved down and blah blah blah. But now Shell moved back up. Evie's moving back up. Agata's moving back up. Russ moved up. Penna moved up. We're seeing an influx, like even people like Elliot had moved up. Joe B didn't turn into Joe B until he moved up.
Mhm.
Do you think we're going to see more people moving down, more people moving? Where do you think this trend is going?
I think it's always going to be more people moving up that leads to more success. I think simply due to the nature of our sport and what we do, more mass on your frame, more mass you can potentially move on the barbell. People tend to have better recovery. They tend to like have these like it's different. Some people it's a long build. Other people's it's quicker and you see it. I think it got really popular for people to start cutting down because we saw like a handful of outliers do it and do really well with it. But I think there's a couple things we have to account for. I think the first thing is on the male side, right? Like if we look at Shell, he's really the main guy who's done it right and done it successfully. I think there's just something to the discipline when you have to be so locked into your nutrition and so locked into your program and recovery variables to even stay healthy enough to make that cut, that there's just a different level of intent with your training that I think also is a big part of it, right? Because the thing is, even though he did that and he solidified himself well, he didn't get stronger. He didn't beat his best total ever. He just held on to enough to be able to overtake the current 66s at the time, right? That's the big thing.
Mm.
Whereas with someone like Evie or Agata, we see them going down, but actually still being able to manage to increase their top end with what they were doing. And I think it's more common for female lifters to be able to get away with that because relative to their male counterparts, I think female lifters oftentimes are walking around at slightly higher body fat percentage because they need to, like for health reasons, and because like let's say like 10% for a male could be equated to like let's say like 15% for a female, right? But for female society, like, okay, you know what? No, I'm gonna get closer to say just throwing out like 10%. They'll probably still be able to hold on to pretty good strength, right? There's just like I think that's why we see this with the lightweight females, their capability to be able to do that. But even then, we see that there's probably a limit to that, like what Evie has talked about herself, right? So I feel like we've seen some people do that with success because they were just in the right circumstances, whether it's body composition wise or there being an open enough space to fill total wise because of where the competitive landscape was in the weight class for that to work. But I feel like more often than not, we see people have more success when they actually move up, right? Sometimes it's not even with moving up. Austin Perkins will tell you himself that one of the biggest things that helped him blow up, I think he's actually talked about this in your podcast, was just being consistent with his eating. Like his wife Sid would be making like, you have to eat, you have to eat. And we've seen what that's done for him, right? So I think when you just increase your recovery resources, you're able to eat more, you're able to train harder, make adaptations quicker. I feel like that's usually going to be what sets people apart long term. I think that's what's going to be what leads to these totals getting further increased the way that they have been, right? Some people can handle weight class longer than others. Some people can get away with that cutting, but I don't think it's ever going to be like the norm for people to take mass off their frame and be more successful in a sport that's about lifting as much weight as possible.
Yeah, and you do have I almost forgot Sarah Naldi moved down and
Oh
now
yeah,
is the queen of the 57s. But there'll
yeah,
always be someone who moves down. But I do agree. I think the overall trend will be you lift weights long enough, you're going to throw on muscle mass. That's the byproduct lifting weights. God bless. If you lift weights a long time and never throw on muscle mass, that's a depressing world.
yeah,
That's supposed to
yeah,
happen. That's a good thing. So
yeah.
eventually, yeah, it's a natural thing to move up. And you're probably, as you throw in muscle mass, fighting moving up until you think you're going to be competitive a weight class up, and then boop, the bubble burst, you move up, blah blah blah. So I agree. And then here and there, there'll be pockets of somebody who contemplates. I'm carrying a little bit more body fat. Could I drop and still make it? It'll be a tough cut, but could I? And then they do it. They smash, shell, Evie, Sarah, whatever happens. But ultimately, with a lot of them, Evie, Shell, they moved back
They
again.
move back up.
Eventually,
Yeah.
they're like, it wasn't going to be forever. And God bless. So, anyways, interesting to see. Let me have another question with you, my man. We're already past 3 hours. Holy freaking smokes, Marcellus. But let me ask you your opinion on what so far is the comeback of the year for you. And this is all off the cuff. And then later on, if you're like, fuck, I changed my mind. I totally forgot about so and so. God bless. Anyone listening, give Marcella some grace because you're I'm not giving you like 3 weeks to
Dude, prep
peruse
time.
every
Yeah.
weight class.
Comeback of the year. Man.
This is one of the tougher ones.
I feel like I have to trying to just make sure I'm going through everyone quickly in my head, but
I know, I know, I know, I know.
I feel like yeah, that's really tough. For a comeback of the year, uh, I think I got to give that to Russ. I think
Probably.
I think so. Just because Because I'm trying to think of who's even had like a downtrend where they need a comeback. Whereas with Russ, it's like, okay, you lost worlds, and and a lot of people argue that you shouldn't have lost that, right? That you came in complacent, that you didn't do everything you do, blah blah blah. And that's never take away from endurance. At the end of the day, hey, the better man won on the day. But I feel like to do that and then just objectively the landscape of lifting was looking like in regards to a lot of people being happy that he lost, thinking like, oh, he's done, his era is done, blah, blah, blah. Then to come back to Sheffield and give us the best version of self that we've seen and to, beat Jurens, beat Adi, have the Battle of 83s at Sheffield. I feel like it has to be him, man, because I'm trying to think I can't think of too many other people that like had a big downtrend and then bounced back to the same degree anyway. I'm trying to
That's it.
think.
Like someone might find lesser degrees, but from number one, he was
Yeah,
number 183, straight up lost and could not be
yeah,
said to be number 183. Then won the battle of the 83s to right that ship and then moved up and won a world record at 93. So like the difference, I agree. Off the top of my head to the significance. Now I'll have to go through division by division before the year end. He's definitely the most prominent name to bounce out. And because, like you
yeah,
had said, the prolificness of that loss
yeah.
makes it very impactful. Oh my God, Russ
Yeah,
lost. Like everyone, it was like the talk of worlds. So then for him to come back the next year, most people thought like, okay, that and then the emergence of the other 83s, including Joe B, there were people openly saying he's cooked. I mean, the era is over and he was a great era. He gave a lot to it, but that's probably that. And God bless, it's going to happen eventually. But then for
yeah,
him to reemerge, take the battle of the 83s of Sheffield, and then to take the world record at 93 is it's quite the
yeah.
comeback. It is. Off the
I,
top of my
I, I,
melon, I'm like
I'd,
you, I would have to
I'd,
double check on the women's side if there's someone I'm forgetting, but
if Taylor had beaten Joe, I'd give
oh
it
yeah.
to Taylor. I'd give it to
Oh yeah.
Taylor. If
He
Taylor
was
had
far
beaten
more gone than
Joe,
Russ.
yes, he was gone for a while. I would
Yeah.
absolutely give it to him. And as I was before I gave the Russ answer, I was even thinking about Taylor. I was like, but it was a comeback for him from the standpoint of where he was to where he's at now, but he didn't win. That's the thing. He didn't win. So I think that's why Russ edges him out as far as that.
It was a remarkable comeback though. Like
Yeah.
how far gone Taylor was. Like if people are saying like Russ was cooked because he lost the world, Taylor was so far cooked. He was well done. It was people were like it had been forever. And
Yeah.
for if Taylor's comeback already just given that is remarkable. But I think if he had won, oh my gosh, but it's still a remarkable comeback. Who's kidding who? But yeah. And also person four before let's leave this one for the last question. I lied. I have one more question. How about this? Um 2026. Who do you have your eyes on? And you're telling yourself everybody needs to watch this person is the most likely person to do the Joe B. Meaning in 2025, they broke through, like for instance, Will Ball, Elliot Sykes, Nonzo. They broke through, so they're on everyone's radar. But 2024, Joe B broke through, sure, but he didn't do what he did in 2025, where he's like, this is mine now. Who
Mhm.
of these people do you think is the most likely? Like, who's that person? Like, you better watch. I think they're going to do what Joe B did.
Ah,
This is a hard
man.
one too, and again, I'm
Yeah,
not going to hold it to you because I'm
yeah.
throwing it
I
to
was
you
like, I
last.
was gonna say, man, I hate to close out with being like, I don't know, but I really don't know. That's
It's
one where
tough.
I'd really have to sit because there are a few names that come to mind, but I'm like, I have to really sit down and look and compare before I say for sure, like, oh yeah, this is who I think is gonna be it, right? It's yeah, I don't
Especially
know.
since how I'm adding the caveat they can't already be here. They can't already. There has to be
Yeah,
like Joe B, where it's like you broke through, but you hadn't proved yourself yet.
yeah.
Now you're about to make that
Yeah.
leap. That's a
And,
tough one.
and what makes it tough too is that with some of these people I'm thinking about, and that's why I won't say names right now, but I'm like, man, yes, if you stick with it, but I don't know if you're gonna do this next year. You know what I mean? That's the problem with a lot of people that are and to bring it back to our first one, like that's why it's like, man, just stick with something long enough. Because
Mm.
there's so many people that I've seen where like, man, you're right there. If you had given yourself 3 more months, 1 more year, you're right there. But something happens and they stop, they pull back, right? So I don't know. I don't have an answer for that one. I have to sit down and really think about that one, I think.
Janae Kovac's another one that has potential. She's right
Yeah.
near the top. Junior. There's a bunch. There's no shortage like Alba had. Alba had that moment where she
Mhm.
was a junior and just obliterated at Junior Worlds, turned around the next year and freaking took the open. Like some
Yeah.
people are like, Wolf just had that moment. They didn't take the open yet, but next year, watch out, And
Mhm.
that's the hardest is predicting, to your point, predicting the future of who's on the cusp of entering the open and be like, okay, I'm not just in the background. I'm going to take it. I'm going to take
Yeah.
it. I'm going
Yeah.
from background to taking it. Elbow wasn't even in. Elbow was in at the Open Worlds and wasn't even podiuming. Destroyed at Junior Worlds, and yeah, it was a prediction. It would have been. I think she's going to break through, but the hardest part is predicting the future. Judging the past is one thing. Everyone's got an opinion on what already happened, but trying to say, I don't know. But anyways, listen, my man, I appreciate your time. We went over 3 freaking hours. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. We could have kept going too, but I'll have you back. I'll have you back as I always do, and we'll catch up. I'll see you in freaking Austin. Good luck with training. Good luck with handling. Um, you're doing a phenomenal job. I had no idea about the health scare. Glad to hear that everything's on the up and up and everything's okay, but it just goes to show check in with your people. You never know what they're going through, and give grace to people because you never know what they're going through, and you don't want to be piling on when they're at their worst. But glad everything's good. And we'll hang out soon, my man. I'll see you
All right, man.
shortly in the flesh.
I'll see you in 3 weeks.
Okay, everybody, and everybody listening, as per usual, please do subscribe, give us high ratings, and until next time, six pack Lapadat, six up, and we are out.